Hello everyone and welcome back to What a Barb, a Polin podcast. I'm Ovs. It has been a while, although by the time you hear this, it probably won't have been as long as it has been for us. We've done this in a weird order, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't really know where we are with this episode, so bear with us.
We're figuring it out.
At the moment, I have Lecky and Beans. Veg is somewhere. She's in the ether. And then this episode is like cut together from I don't know how many separate recordings. So sometimes Beans will be in the recording, sometimes she won't. Sometimes we'll have a veg, sometimes we won't.
Yeah.
We'll just see how we go.
Full disclosure, I have no idea where we are.
Now, the chance of Beans having watched anything that we're covering today is unbelievably unlikely.
The last episode I watched was episode 3.
Well, things have moved since then. The good thing is she's got a good memory. So
yeah, that's true.
We'll get to where we're at in a minute. But just briefly, how is everyone doing? I feel like generally not well is the headline.
Yeah, you guys are getting sick.
I think I might be getting sick.
Well, you went on like an insane road trip.
Oh my god, the wedding.
It wasn't a road trip. I flew.
Yeah, but there was a road involved.
Yeah.
Oh, well, see, my father-in-law got remarried, so we flew out to attend the wedding, and we had a blowout on the highway, literally in the middle of nowhere. It almost took 4 hours back to the airport to get a new rental car because there's literally no rental car places. My husband's family lived in South Dakota. There's nothing there.
Yeah, oh my god.
So we drove almost 4 hours one way to get a new rental car and then had to drive like 3 hours back to where we were supposed to be.
Also, Lucky, you look very pretty today.
Oh, thank you.
You do. I mean, you always do, but
I might go see a movie later, so I was like, I will do my makeup and put on a decent shirt.
I'm liking the colour of your top.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I'm a big fan. It's like a
very light pink mauve color.
Yes, it's very pretty. It's very pretty.
Speaking of weddings, I have like favorite photos, and one of my favorite photos is Lucky at her wedding.
Oh, you look so pretty at your wedding. It's so true.
I know.
Thank you.
You look beautiful.
Pen's dress in the episode that we've done, but her mirror dress always reminds me of your wedding dress. And I know it's not really like it in the slightest.
Not anything close, but
It's not, but it's like the floral appliques. I always think of like,
oh, okay.
because you use your floral appliques in such a pretty way.
Yeah.
This is so unhelpful because we're not a visual podcast, but believe me.
You know what we'll do? We'll just do like a close-up of the texture of Lucky's wedding dress.
Just imagine floral appliques on Lecky. She looked great.
There was floral appliques on the dress, and I took some of the extra lace and I made like sleeves with the lace.
Beautiful.
Do you know what it is? It's like a very Eloise dress. When I saw it, I was like, this is what Eloise should wear.
Very planty.
Well, yeah, covered in plants, isn't it? He'd love it.
Yeah.
Lecky hasn't recently got married. That's not a recent development. That was a while ago.
No. I just love that photo.
Oh,
It is so pretty, though. But yeah, so Lecky looks pretty, and she nearly lost
her life.
Yeah, lost her life
Your wife.
in South Dakota, which sounds like some sort of country song.
Our tire literally just exploded, and the damage was so bad, it did like body damage to the car.
Jesus.
I was worried they wouldn't even be able to put on a spare tire, but they were able to. And then, I was just panicked the entire way back to the airport.
Yeah, I would be.
We had to drive over 200 miles on this spare.
Yeah.
You're only supposed to go like 50 to 70 miles max.
Absolutely not.
It's very stressful. We were like, can you message us to say that you survived?
And my husband was like, oh, it's probably fine. But I was just panicked the entire time. But anyway, I survived.
No, I would be like, what's that noise?
Yeah.
Is that the tire exploding?
Well, the thing was, I was so tired, I kept falling asleep, but then I would wake up like every couple minutes, like in a panic, like, oh, is everything still okay?
She wasn't the driver, can I just point out.
I wasn't driving. Anyway, so
Lecky's been travelling. I have just been burnt out. Work has been a lot, but hopefully that will change soon.
Yeah.
Veg is fine. She's just, I don't know where she is. She'll be here at some point. So, how has the been?
I mean, it's been 2 weeks post-breakup.
if you're our Patreon member,
you'll know what she's talking about.
Yeah.
If you're not, he's had a breakup. And you scared everyone because you made like a little post about it and you called the post Breaking Up with Beans and everyone thought you were leaving the podcast.
It's true.
It's so funny because that was the first fucking thing I thought of and I was like, this is so funny. Like in my twisted like post-breakup brain, I was like, Breaking Up with Beans is hilarious. Because initially I was going to do Baking with Beans, the breakup edition. And then I was like, I feel like that sounds even worse. But yeah, everybody was very kind to me in the comments. It is funny because I was like, this is very unhinged. And I was like halfway through laughing at it, especially where I was like, nothing like eating refried beans.
She laughed, she cried.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you, everybody. You were very kind. We're not breaking up.
Breaking it with boys, not pods.
Yeah.
So what can you do?
I cried yesterday for a little bit and then I stopped. And then I think I had talked about it in the post, but he's just been like unblocking and blocking me again. It's never long enough for me to block him back, which is fucking annoying me.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think I'll be okay. I'm going to a lot of shows in the next few weeks, like music shows. And then I'm going like out dancing with friends and stuff. I feel like my time has opened up to like doing more things with my friends. Yeah. So that's kind of nice. But I definitely have times where I still miss him and I still would like him to come back, even though he absolutely shouldn't.
Absolutely not. In the bin with me, please. I'm glad that you're recording this episode with us, because I was thinking, like, had we been doing the first part of episode 5, which we did with Veg, a little bit of that episode will be in this episode because of the way that the episode's balanced, but it was all about, like, lies and deceit and concealing the truth and manipulating people, and I was like, oh my god, if Beans had to have this kind of conversation,
I would literally just be sobbing.
She probably would have had some great points, to be honest.
It's like an autobiography.
Yeah.
Right, guys. Shall we move into the crumbs of the week, month, year, decade, whatever we're on? The apocalypse. Lecky,
what has happened?
Take us through the breaking crumbs of the insert time period here. So, Lecky, what have you got for us?
As we know, season 4 is deep in post-production now, so it's been a little quiet on the crumbs front, but there are definitely a few bits and pieces to sweep up this month. Firstly, fans of the show have discovered that the TV show tie-in of An Offer from a Gentleman is currently due to be published on January 13th, stirring speculation that the show could be released around the same time. It's worth noting that the book release dates have been known to move around before, but so far it's a promising piece of information that could hint at an early 2026 release for season 4. We will, of course, keep an eye on the book dates to see if any further crumbs can be uncovered.
What's your best guess at the minute, Lek?
I think first part in mid to late January and the second part around Valentine's Day.
If the book is January, I'm going February, March.
Okay.
But I wouldn't be surprised if it's later. Eternal torment, after all.
In more season 4 news, Polly Walker recently gave a few hints about what we can expect from the upcoming season, telling Collider that, I think this season will be a very different tone, sort of upstairs, downstairs, so you get to know some of the servants, the people who are standing at the door, witnessing it all. You get to hear their stories a bit more. Portia fans, you will also be thrilled to know that, in Polly's words, my character, Lady Featherington, is still up to no good. Whoop. But if, like us, you've always wanted to see a love story for Portia, then you're going to be a little disappointed to hear that Portia will not be finding her own love match this season, with Polly joking, they've decided that I'm not worthy of a boyfriend. I desperately need a boyfriend, but they won't give me one. They give everybody else boyfriends. I suppose at least this frees Portia up for what we hope will be a heart-wrenching storyline with Varley as the two try to live through the Great Maid Wars of 1816.
A real love story for the ages.
Polly was speaking to Collider to promote her new show Bookish, which premiered on PBS Mystery on July 16th.
I think you'd like that from the sound of it.
Yeah.
Add it to the list.
In Jonathan Bailey news, Jurassic World Rebirth is finally out in movie theaters.
You saw it, didn't you, Lek?
I did, yeah. It was pretty good. He was great.
High reviews from Lecky there.
Yeah.
And an opportunity for you to use your beloved Jonathan Bailey dinosaur collage.
Yes, great. Thank you. As well as starring in the movie, fans were delighted to find out that Johnny plays the clarinet in the movie's score. It's the score for his character. It's actually really sweet that he did that.
How cute is that?
I love that. There is an adorable video as well going around showing Johnny absolutely loving his role as a clarinetist, and it's very sweet.
Protect that man at all costs.
While promoting Jurassic World Rebirth, Jonathan Bailey was also asked about his upcoming role in Bridgerton Season 4. As always, he couldn't reveal too much, but he did say that he would probably be in the season about as much as he was in Season 3, and not significantly more than that. So from that, we can probably guess that we'll see Cantony in about 3 episodes or so, but we'll see.
We'll take what we can get.
Johnny also appeared on Chicken Shop Date with Amelia de Moldenberg, an event that Veg has had to take 3 to 5 business weeks to emotionally and physically recover from. That was actually really cute. I watched that as well.
Veg is a transformed human, I tell you now.
Johnny has also been nominated in the category of Drama Guest Actor at the Gold Derby TV Awards for his role in Bridgerton Season 3. In addition, the Emmy nominees have finally been announced, with Bridgerton Season 3 picking up a total of 5 nominations. Old Friends was nominated for Outstanding Period or Fantasy Sci-Fi Hairstyling. Into the Light was nominated for Outstanding Period Costumes. Romancing Mr. Bridgerton received a nomination for Outstanding Production Design for a Narrative, Period, or Fantasy Program. I'm guessing that's based purely on the flower Dalek.
Which we'll be covering in the next rewatch, so stay tuned.
Yeah. And Jack Murphy's choreography throughout the season was nominated for Outstanding Choreography for Scripted Programming.
Aww.
And last, but certainly not least, Lady Whistledown herself, Julie Andrews, was nominated for Outstanding Character Voiceover Performance for her work in Into the Light. Huge congratulations to every team involved across these categories. I'm certain we can all agree that each and every nod is incredibly well-deserved.
Oh, and Jack Murphy was nominated for his work on Doctor Who. So, double whammy.
Yes, yeah, And in very exciting cast news, it has been announced that Luke Newton will be starring in the upcoming off-Broadway play House of McQueen, playing the role of fashion designer Lee Alexander McQueen. We are so thrilled for Luke. This honestly sounds like such a perfect role for him, and it's really great to see him return back to the theater after his previous work in The Shape of Things. The play will begin previews on August 19th before opening on September 9th at the Mansion at Hudson Yards in New York. The production's executive producer told Deadline, "It is our absolute pleasure to announce Luke's involvement with House of McQueen. We can't think of anyone better suited to bring Lee's story to life than this incredibly impressive multi-hyphenate. Luke is already deep in rehearsals, with behind-the-scenes clips being shared across social media. Luke also has been featured in D-Section magazine, where he talked about serendipity, about becoming McQueen, and about what it means to step into someone else's genius. We'll include the link to the magazine in the show notes."
Oh, alas, New York is possibly a trip too far for moi. But if you are going, guys, have a great time. I know that a lot of people are really excited to go.
Yeah, please report back. My husband and I are thinking about going if we can get away, but it remains to be seen.
Yeah, so we might have to live vicariously through all of you. I'm very excited to do so.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Luke. Such a good role.
Yes. In more cast news, Simone Ashley has been cast and has already been spotted filming The Devil Wears Prada 2. I saw a clip of her. I'm very excited for this. I'm a huge fan of the first film.
I don't think I've seen the first one.
You've never seen The Devil Wears Prada?
I've told you, I've got weird gaps in my movie knowledge. We'll add that to the list.
All right. Cast members including Luke Thompson, Luke Newton, Hannah Dodd, and Taritha Chandran were spotted at Wimbledon earlier this month, and Taritha's outfit was so cute. I loved it.
Ugh.
And lastly, Florence Hunt's new show Mixtape is now available to watch on BBC iPlayer.
I really want to see that, I think that's up my street.
Look cute.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking to one of our listeners about it, our lovely Jenny, and that's on my list.
And I think that's everything, besides me literally going to my to-do list and adding Watch Devil Wears Prada on there, because I can't believe you haven't seen it.
I'm sorry to disappoint. Me and Lucky have film club. She's my education.
Yeah. I'd like to watch a movie every now and then and share my favorite movies with other people.
Well, Lek, thank you so much. A bit of a quiet month, but lots to celebrate nonetheless. And should we bloody get on with the rest of the episode? Finally. I don't want to tell you how long it's taken us to pull this one together, guys.
It's a long one.
Enjoy. Okay, guys, we're going to jump into part 2 of our episode 5 rewatch, which is news to Beans.
Yeah.
Beans, I don't even know if you knew what we're recording today.
No.
But you've got a very good memory.
Yeah.
We haven't finished editing part 1 of episode 5. I think a mirror has happened.
Right.
I think there's been touching.
Yeah.
I think hands have wandered. Things have gone in. Things have gone out. We're good. Okay?
Some nipple play.
We are now picking up from there, wherever that might be. Obs, Lecky, and Veg of the past. Take it away. Beans will introduce you at the appropriate time.
Amazing.
Off we go.
We find Cantony canoodling in bed.
So Anthony is kissing Kate's bump, trying sex before Kate playfully turns him down because of Newton being in the room. It's adorable that Anthony is a complete simp for her, just in his little dressing gown and everything. But I think, like we said earlier, it's really sweet to see what his character is when he's not, constantly burdened by duty and trauma every second of the day.
There is also some cut dialogue from the scene which hinted that Anthony sensed that Kate had another reason for keeping quiet about their baby news. After Kate said that she wanted to keep their secret a little longer, Anthony initially confronted her, asking if that was the only reason she wanted to delay. The scene description reads, "Kate stiffens, not ready to admit there might be more." Anthony goes on to say that he hopes this is not some lingering worry about how things went with Edwina. And the scene description says, "No, but sure, let's say that." As Kate replies, "Oh, yes, perhaps it is that." This makes Anthony worry that Kate is maybe unhappy, with him pointing out that Edwina is happy now, before basically asking if Kate feels the same, and she assures him that she is happy. I think this was cut because the Edwina issue is stretched on for so long in season 2 that I don't think revisiting the issue in season 3 really made much sense, especially having Kate kind of use that as an excuse for why she's not ready to explain why she is hesitant about sharing news of their pregnancy. I think it might have suggested that she was unhappy happy, which is not what we want to see from Cantony after their happy ending.
No.
And in general, I don't think giving Kate this conflict about whether or not she wanted to reveal her pregnancy was the right conflict for her season 3 arc anyway. But I'm sure we'll touch on that more later.
That is so funny that, like, instead of just saying, oh, I'm just feeling a bit nervous, she'd been like, oh God, what excuse can I give? Do you remember that time you almost married my sister?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad that was taken out. That would have been like a really weird thing to have just included. Yeah. It's such a light scene between the two of them.
Yes. But I was sorry to see one moment get cut from this scene as Anthony turns to Newton and says that they will need to work together on this. This being basically convincing Kate it is time to come clean to the family about the bun in the oven.
And I don't blame Kate, because it is such a huge thing to have to deal with and announce. And then also everyone else is announcing shit. So yeah, I'm with you, girl. Meanwhile, Fron are having an adorable promenade. As the script explains, it's a
beautiful
day out.
It's a Jim Carrey reference.
Is it?
I think so.
And John has gorgeous words to share as he makes his intentions known. After Fran shares that she hopes her future husband will not hide her piano stool, as Anthony once did, John replies by saying, I would not dream of it.
No. I love him.
Be still our hearts, much like John's in season 4. God, I mean, also, how bold of him. Yeah. I like how quiet he is, but also just like utterly bold, like, by the way, we're getting married.
Yeah.
Thought you should know.
I really like John's confidence here. I feel like in a romance, you really want the man who's like confident about his feelings. That's kind of attractive. And he's like, oh, well, I wouldn't dream of doing that to my wife, which is you, by the way. I'll propose pretty soon here. Hope you're comfortable with the idea.
Look, he's around for a good time, not a long time. So he needs to
get a move on. Yeah.
Vicus fans, you'll be interested to know that Marcus originally made an appearance at this point. Sure enough, Marcus had been inspired by Lady Danbury early this episode to call on someone. And he admits he hoped he would run into Violet because he wished to see her. And offer his congratulations about Polin's engagement. Sadly, during their conversation, Violet admits that she had doubts about Fron and whether they have a genuine spark, and she still is worried about the situation with the Queen. You can't let it lie, can you, Violet?
Yeah. By the way, in a blink and miss it shot, you can actually see Daniel Francis chatting with a group of townspeople who are also out and about on the day. And this isn't as interesting, but another guy also tells a passing couple that they have a fine-looking hound. And you know what? He is not wrong. The dog also appears to agree with the compliment because he barks back at the guy.
Fine-looking hound. Good boy!
And also his dog mom is wearing Violet's cast-offs from 203, so a little reduce, reuse, recycle moment for you there.
Violet then goes on to invite Marcus to the engagement party. Spoiler, he's not the only love interest who ends up getting invited, but we have other fish to fry, as Anthony would say.
Yes.
As if that man has ever fried fish in his entire life, can I just add? But carry on. Oh no, it's still me. Ignore that. Carry on myself. Because over at Bridgerton House, poor Kate is being run off her feet planning the engagement party for Colin and Penn. I love her dress and I love her clipboard.
Yeah. Also, I was just thinking how hilarious it would be if Kate's clipboard was inherited from Violet and it had like top befootment on the top of her to-do list, either scratched out or not, and Kate's kind of puzzled by it, but continues the to-do list from there.
Look, the Viscountess duties have been very fraught in recent years. Yeah. But we find Elle sat lost in thought. Kate joins her, sensing that Eloise is still troubled by the engagement announcement. Elle says that she's upset about Penn keeping a secret, but she's not surprised because, you know, the girl can keep a secret or two. What's on Elle's mind? She says, once again, I am left to face the fact that everyone eventually pairs off, while I, too, would rather be out riding. Metaphorically speaking, I do not much like horses. Ooh.
Eloise fans, you'll be intrigued by some cut dialogue from Kate here in the script, and if you look closely, you can actually see Simone beginning the sentence before the camera cuts away from her. But after Eloise shares that she would rather be out riding, metaphorically speaking, Kate originally responded with, it can be very lonely when your desires do not match what is expected of you. Your path is not laid out for you as it is for every other young lady, but that does not mean that there is not one waiting for you to find.
That would have been interesting to keep in, I think. I don't see what the harm would have been.
I bet people listening to this would wonder if this was maybe like the writer is not sure which direction they were going to go with in season 4. But in my opinion, I feel like it's maybe just a little on the nose, like telling us that Eloise isn't like every other debutante and doesn't want the same things. Like we already know that. And we already can guess that her path is going to be different. They don't necessarily need to tell us that through dialogue.
Yeah, and that might have also been a little bit too reassuring for Eloise at this time.
Yeah.
When she still needs to sort of
chart her own path instead of somebody telling her that, oh, you will chart your own path. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this whole scene is so interesting for Eloise fans because the idea of Eloise feeling left behind is the perfect setup for her own season. It's very much what inspired Buck Eloise to go off and find her own life, that everyone was pairing off and leaving her completely alone. And we see her mixed emotions really wonderfully played out actually in part 2 as she finds true happiness for Polin.
Yeah.
I always think of that wedding scene where she's watching them and she's crying and smiling because she is happy for them, but she feels completely left behind. And it is that key setup for season 4 and season 5. In the end, Kate encourages Elle to speak to Colin, which she certainly will take on board, and share how she feels, while Elle encourages Kate not to have cinnamon biscuits on the menu. Back at Featherington House, though, the past 24 hours are finally catching up with Portia. She's sat in front of a dressing table, staring at her own reflection, while Varley asks how she is. She's very much been affected by what Colin said about being preoccupied with standing. We know that she sees it as her job to protect the family, but she has been caught up too much in sort of the society movement of it all in past seasons. And she says, how was I to know it was a love match? So she does see it's a love match.
Yeah.
Finally. She recognises that.
Yeah.
And we've discussed how Portia's actions have never really conveyed her intention very well. She is motivated by genuinely wanting to protect her daughters, not just herself. And we've seen this be true all the way back from season 1 when she'd confront Archie, if you remember. She'd storm in and be like, you're messing up our daughters' lives. It wasn't just about protecting herself. But she's always been in this survival mode, and she has the capability to really damage her daughters when she's trying to protect them, especially Penelope. And this is what she's finally having to grapple with. And we said that Colin also helped by showing that he will protect Penelope, even if it takes standing up against her own family. And so it's maybe the moment where she's sitting down to process that protecting them and their family name and her daughters isn't just down to her now anymore. She's not alone in that anymore.
And also that maybe she hasn't been protecting them in all the ways that she should have been.
Yeah, because she's just seen Colin really stand up for Penelope in a way that says, she is part of my family, so I'll look after her.
Yeah.
But also the way I will look after her is that she'll feel safe with me rather than sort of thrown under the bus.
And yeah, I'll protect her from people like you who are perhaps, hurting her.
Harming her. Yeah, absolutely. And some people really found a lot of Portia's previous actions very unforgivable. I think we've always had not necessarily sympathy for Portia all the time, but understanding for where she was coming from.
Yeah.
And Polly Walker does too. I remember in season 3 interviews, she was really grateful to those who recognised Portia's perspective and why she acted the way she did. It was always going to take a lot to convince us that she really had changed for her to truly be able to reconcile with Penelope in a way that felt genuine and not contrived or like Penelope was being guilt-tripped into it or whatever. But I think she achieved this in abundance in season 3, which is just such a testament to how brilliant Polly Walker is.
And also the writers. I feel like this is one of the aspects of season 3 that they did extremely, extremely well. Portia's transformation in her arc this season was brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, even just within this episode, she goes on such a truthful journey that by the end you genuinely believe it. And there's the reminder of the connection to the Bridgertons, which Varley points out. And it is an important reminder that social climbing is not just about a preoccupation with social standing, as Portia earlier refuted. It is about protection. And she knows that that's the game of society. And Colin's words of our Bridgerton name is a reminder of this, that ultimately she should get on board because Pen will be protected and the family will be protected.
Yeah.
And this is especially emphasised because Walter Dundas's calling card makes an appearance, reminding her that you ain't got time to mess around. Like, this is not only true love, but it's also going to get you out of this situation. And then on the topic of the calling card, the address is so vague. It just says opposite Princeton Square on Housden Street. I don't even think this is a real place, guys. There is a Princeton Street in Bloomsbury.
I just like how brief the calling cards that we see in season 3 are. I just really hope the back of his message also just says like, please explain.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of like setting up the one we later see from Lady Tilly.
Opposite Princeton Square. Where?
Yeah.
I just imagine you having to just go stand outside and just like look around for him.
Yeah. Anyway.
So it's a really interesting scene. And of course, we can't look over the mirror imagery, which is a direct parallel with Penelope of Portia finally reconciling or having to confront herself.
Staring into her reflection. Yes.
Which makes me a little sad that that's not how the mirror was used for Pen.
Yeah.
But we've talked about that.
As we shared in our last episode, there was some interesting cut dialogue here that alluded to Portia's feelings about love and potentially a painful past. After Portia asked how she could have known it was a love match, she said, I never dreamed of such a thing for myself, and if I did, it was entirely foolish. And then the scene description noted that there is some real pain here that she's doing her damnedest to hide. But there was also some more dialogue cut after this point, where Varley points out that Penelope and Portia are the most alike in the family. Varley says that it makes sense that you didn't expect love for Miss Penelope, Penelope, you two are the most alike, saying that they are both clever and strong-willed. Portia responds to this by saying, did I ever tell you that? I did not know I had ever said it aloud.
God.
Oh, I love that.
I wish that had been kept in.
I love that.
And that's what we've identified throughout all the seasons, is that they do bite at each other. And I think Portia has been frustrated with Penelope because they share so many traits.
Yeah.
They're so similar. And it's the butting heads and the way that Portia has not always had full control over her. The thing Barley's saying is interesting too, because you didn't expect love for Miss Penelope because you're both alike. It's like, okay, what is it in Portia's past that means that she wouldn't expect love?
I also feel like this would have been a really interesting moment for audiences to realize that all along we thought that Portia kind of looked down on Penelope.
Or dismissed her.
But to know that she thought that they were the most alike, and maybe that's why she's a little harder on Penelope perhaps than her other daughters, that would have been such an interesting moment to process as a viewer, I think.
I would love a spin-off, a prequel, like with a younger Varley as well.
Oh my God, young Varley, can you imagine?
That'd be so fun.
And they could be gay.
Yeah, potato lesbians, as Bean says.
Well, let's hope. But let's head back to Bloomsbury. We find Polin glowing and curled up on the chaise, looking quite a mess after a couple more rounds, according to the script. So make no wonder she's looking a bit more tousled. Colin is in bliss. She's playing with his chest hair, looking rather ravished. But don't worry, Polin, you're our mess. And speaking of, this is of course the famous line from the book, where in the book, Penelope said, do I look a mess? And Colin nods and says,
but you're my mess, he whispered.
And he was very glad for that. So I think this was Nicola's favourite line, and it definitely made it into the season. Perfect little moment.
There was originally a callback to the journal scene here as well. After Penelope asked him how she measured up to the women in Paris, Colin originally responded, I knew you read that part of my journal, because she lies about what she read in his journal.
Because Penelope originally would have said she was reading about Spain.
Exactly.
So Colin was like, thank God she wasn't reading the smut.
Yeah, so he was initially relieved. Then he wandered over to his desk and saw that the entry was open to his writing about Paris. And he felt a mixture of like excitement and shame or something like that.
Yeah.
He was kind of titillated by it. But here he's like confronting her about her lie and saying, I knew you read about my time in Paris.
Yeah. I think it would have made a lot more sense here had they kept it in, because otherwise it is a bit like, why is she
referencing the girls in Paris? Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like laughing about it happily, like, oh, the time I slept with all of Paris. But to be fair, it is kind of also on brand that Penn like loves the idea of him being with other people.
Yeah.
She's so into it.
She just loves it.
But of course, Colin's line about keeping promises reminds Penelope of her promise to Eloise. And it's now, better late than never, that the mirror holds that crucial Lady Whistledown significance. And she begins to tell him, Colin, there is something I must tell you. And he says, what is it? Our listeners, Something Different bloomed. Also, bloody love that reference.
Writing in my room.
Writing in my room. Look at Lecky getting into becoming a little Swiftie.
Look.
Oh my God.
I told you I really like the Midnights album.
So proud of you. God, babe. Also, that is a very Penelope song if you listen to it. Anyway, Something Different Bloom said, this episode, my question is, how do you think Colin would have reacted if Penelope had been able to confess being Whistledown straight after the mirror scene, if they hadn't interrupted when she tried? Assuming that's what she was going to say. Do you think he would have taken it as badly as he did, or would the blow have been softened because she told him rather than him finding out by following her? What a question, because that is what she's going to say, right?
Yeah.
That is what it's leading up to, and then interrupted. How would it have gone?
I think he always would have taken it badly, but I do think his reaction would have been softened if she had told him. Yeah. But considering it is post-sex, like we may still have had the entrapment line later.
Yeah. Oh my God. Imagine how bad it would have been. Because you know how he can be if he's caught off guard and he hasn't got space to escape. Yeah. If he like in that haze, he was like, oh my God, was that part of the entrapment?
Yeah.
I think that line immediately after just losing your virginity to the love of your life would have been horrific.
Yeah. Also, imagine how dramatic the carriage ride back would have been with the Queen's bounty.
That would have been good, though. Yeah. That would be quite good, actually.
Yeah, that would have been traumatic, though.
It would have been traumatic, but I also think it would have set off alarm bells in Colin's head that, like, oh, my wife might be
in danger.
I need to protect her. Yeah.
It would have raised his protective heckles, which I think is lacking a little bit in season 3. It is hard, isn't it? I think maybe like going for like the post-orgasm bliss would be the best way because he's like so frazzled.
No, they call it post-nut clarity. I don't know if that would have helped.
Well, you want some post-nut clarity? There you go.
Also, he's almost completely naked still. He just has his shirt on at this point. He's like just getting dressed. Like, can you imagine like just how taken aback he would have been?
That's too vulnerable, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's really raw.
He would have stormed out for sure.
Yeah. But then also, would he have been very aware of how vulnerable she was as well and then tempered his reaction somehow?
Maybe because they're both vulnerable in that moment. I don't know.
Because if you think about it, and our listener Coco, we're actually recording this weirdly out of sync. So you made this comment on our anniversary episode. Anyway, it's all out of sync. But Coco said, it's always bothered me that Colin didn't know the truth before the baby was in there. But at the same time, I don't see any reason for the truth to be revealed before the carriage ride. Truly, Pen had no idea that Colin would ever have feelings for her. So why would she divulge the secret that drove her only other friend away? And it is a good point.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I don't think that Penelope
owed him it.
Would have told him before the carriage scene. I feel like Penelope should have told him after their engagement.
Yeah.
It's really difficult, isn't it? Because the timeline is so small and she gets so swept away and she doesn't have time to breathe.
The plot almost gives her an excuse for not telling him.
Yeah.
But, I mean, she should have told him. We all know she should have told him.
She should have told him when they got to the Bloomsbury house.
But she didn't know what was going to happen, though.
Yeah.
She didn't know they were going to have sex.
No, but still, that was a good moment to tell him, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, you're being really quiet over there, Pen.
Yeah.
They were engaged by that point.
No, to me, because I can be a little bit harsh on Pen with the when she doesn't tell him, but for me, she kind of gets a little bit of a pass in this episode.
Yeah.
Or at least at this point, because I think she is telling him here at the first point she actually could have done.
Yeah.
And she didn't know what sex was and that he was going to
She's still in a daze when she first arrives. But if she had been thinking, she could have said, no one has ever stood up for me like that. And then there could have been a pause where she said, but there's something I need to tell you. But the thing is, like, Colin doesn't even give her that wiggle room. He's like, I love you, Pen. And then she's just carried away again. You know what I mean?
Swept away. And she doesn't know that what they've just done could make a kid. Like, she has no idea about that. So also, you have to factor in that his reaction, why is his reaction so extreme in episode 7? Because she's kept it from him the whole time.
Yeah.
And because he thinks it's all been a lie. And they've been together in episode 6 so happy. And days have passed at that point.
Also, if you think about the context in 306, it's almost like she's plotting behind his back because she runs out of the room with Eloise. There's clearly all these like schemes going on that he doesn't know about.
Yeah, he's been cut out.
Yeah.
And also by then she's like not going to tell him.
Yeah.
And so his anger isn't just, oh my God, you're Lady Whistledown. I'm actually upset that you're Lady Whistledown. It's, were you going to tell me? Were you not going to tell me? All of this time, everything's a lie. Whereas I think here, he's got less to be angry about.
That's true.
Because like 24 hours ago, they weren't together. So what truth did she owe him 24 hours ago?
Yeah. He was never going to have a good reaction, but he would have had probably a better reaction in that, she didn't wait so long and she doesn't tell him. You know what I mean? Like, that's the big factor.
Because that's what he said to Marina, if you remember.
Yeah.
He said, if you had just told me.
If you had told me, yeah.
Yeah, and so much of his anger is that he was lied to and deceived. Because the deception is where, for him, all that insecurity floods in. It's not that she's Whistledown. Like, that doesn't...
That's also one of my frustrations with season 3. I mean, I do love it, but I feel like she's almost like repeating Marina's actions. And obviously that's just for maximum drama value. But I don't know if Penelope really would have done that to Colin.
That's why she should have broken off the engagement.
Yeah, she would have broken off the engagement to spare him from being hurt.
100%.
Yeah, anyway.
We'll talk about that another time. But I think the whole softness of the scene, the vulnerability of the scene, the fact that she hadn't deceived him for so long, and the fact that he had less to be upset about is probably the only opportunity that she had really, realistically, in the past 24 hours.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think this would have been the best point, really.
But then those pesky servants coming to get more bribes.
But then those pesky servants, Lecky, what's going on?
Yeah, they have some staffing issues to discuss.
They absolutely do.
Anthony noticed the servants are gone, and now they want to go back to Bridgerton House.
We've been recalled.
Yeah. To Penelope's credit, she does have more than one excuse for remaining quiet. She's not only interrupted by the servants, but as the script says, Pen is breathtaken once again by Colin's naked form as he stands to dress.
Same, babe. Absolutely same. I like the idea that she was going to tell him, but like she was so taken by him being naked again.
Adonis, yeah.
You know what? I get distracted in that scene. The way he like shimmies on that
Very clever editing there.
I know, but a man getting dressed you wouldn't think is so hot, but, pile back the cravat back on, babe.
Arrest the neck. Sorry.
And I also love the servant's interruption because they're bringing his personal effects. And I'm just imagining a servant standing outside lugging a giant chest of seashells, being like, which one these? And I like the room. It's got like the Grecian paintings behind him on the fireplace. And also, shout out to the 2 completely empty frames that are stacked there. Who knows what went in them before? I don't know. I can't believe I was looking at the fireplace instead of Colin's chest, actually. But, we've rewatched it a lot. And of course, this makes Pen completely pull back in on herself. She gets really vulnerable again. She sort of pulls the blanket over her chest. And it's that moment where she sort of frazzled. She was gearing up to tell him everything. And then she keeps quiet. And Pink Bunny, I suppose this ties into what we've just been saying, said what would have been the best time for Pen to tell Colin her identity? Probably now.
Yeah.
I think she's missed the window. Or in the carriage scene afterwards. I don't know where the excuse is for that.
Yeah, well, also just any other moment leading up to when he actually finds out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, and now Pen. And then, this would also have worked. This wouldn't have been nearly as bad. Literally anytime.
Anytime now, Pen.
Yeah.
Anytime now. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, and I agree. I think it might be a little harsh, but I think this moment is understandable because she's genuinely interrupted.
Right.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But I think every moment after this interruption is a bit of an excuse on Pen's part. Like, I think she just finds excuses, which is understandable. And we will discuss Penelope's concealment a lot more in episode 6 because 305 does happen so fast for Pen and she doesn't catch her breath and she can't catch her breath. And she does have moments where she's trying to tell him. And of course, we know how that goes. She very conveniently faints. But the moment's gone. But at least they had a wonderful afternoon going at it a few times, eh?
Yeah.
Well done, Polin. You have won the air race. Hello, everyone. It's Obs from the top of the episode again. We're temporarily losing a veg. She'll be back. And Beans, you're now entering the episode. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello. Still no idea what we're talking about.
So we're watching episode 5. So mirror scenes happened. If you had any thoughts on that, tough titties. She's gone. She's gone.
Yeah.
Just briefly, mirror scene, yay or nay? How did you feel?
I have had sex looking at myself in a mirror one time. It's fine.
And that is the Beans takeaway. Was fine. Well, amazing. Fantastic. So let's head over to the palace. What's the Queen up to?
Over at the palace, the Queen is getting a foot bath. As Lady Danbury walks in, the Queen informs her that they are celebrating the demise of Lady Whistledown. Queen Charlotte has detected weakness in Lady Whistledown's latest issue and has already set her plan in motion to catch her.
I think it's hilarious that the Queen is pissed at Lady Whistledown for pulling out of the game, when in fact, Pen is just busy being railed by Colin, who isn't pulling out of the game.
Yeah.
Let it be known.
No.
He is not pulling a Simon on this one.
As I said, I always felt this wasn't set up enough in the show, but some of the cut dialogue here actually suggests that Queen Charlotte had her own game in motion this season, at least over the last 2 episodes. Originally, Lady Danbury remarked that she thought Queen Charlotte and Lady Whistledown were beginning to see eye to eye, referring to another exchange from 304 during the Queen's Ball, when she and the Queen were discussing Lady Whistledown's apparent approval of the Franadani relationship, and how that signaled a friendlier alliance between the gossip writer and the Crown. Then here, Queen Charlotte responded by saying that she declared as much so Lady Whistledown would let her guard down. Now, having seen the way that Lady Whistledown avoided attacking the Queen about the Fron situation in her latest issue, Queen Charlotte thinks it's the perfect time to strike. I'm still not sure this makes much sense to me personally, but there's some more context for you.
I think a little bit of the Lady Whistledown gets slightly lost in the weeds between 3, 4 and at the beginning of 5. And I do think the bounty gives like a fresh kick to sort of bring us back into it.
Yeah, but the reasons for the bounty are kind of thin, flimsy.
But we're going with it. And the Queen is getting a bit bored with Whistledown not playing the game, so the Queen feels like she has to antagonise her. And as she says, we're going to have so much fun. And I think that's a really important reiteration that the Queen doesn't hate and has never hated Lady Whistledown.
Right.
If she did hate her, she'd want to eradicate her. But she just wants to be entertained, so she's just sort of like poking the bear. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how this is going to play out in season 4, to see what tensions are going to arise, if maybe Pen doesn't fall in line, or if the game doesn't get as fun now that she knows her identity.
I think Lady Danbury kind of points this out later in part 2 as well, but I don't think the Queen really has thought about what it would mean to actually catch Lady Whistledown. She just thinks that the pursuit is kind of fun.
Yeah. Thrill is always in the game, never in the capture. But speaking of capture, we're back in the carriage, guys.
The proper carriage this time.
The real carriage, the correct carriage, actual Colin's carriage, arm in arm.
So I love how Colin is pulling the curtains closed in this scene, trying to remain in an intimate space with Penelope, or maybe avoid them being seen together without a chaperone, having learned another lesson from the events of 304. If you remember the tail end of the mirror scene, Colin promised Pen that no one would see them as they were heading back home, so that may also be why he was closing the curtains here. But I kind of like the idea that he's just trying to recreate their moment from 304. Also, I absolutely love how Luke plays this moment with Colin constantly struggling to fight off a proud and happy smile at the beginning of the scene.
The boy has just been laid multiple times, I think. You can understand the little smirk on his face. How is he not exhausted?
He's been studying, practicing for this moment, apparently.
Exactly. Of course, this scene for me and all of us is utterly iconic. Beans, cast your mind back to many a day ago. Do you remember this day of filming and why it is so near and dear to our hearts of Polin in the carriage?
It was our favorite day of filming Crumbs because there was terrible weather.
Yes.
Which you can kind of see if you watch the extras, but somehow they managed not to make it look as bad as it really was. It was pretty bad.
It was like torrential.
They were getting blown about.
They were like fighting for their little lives.
Yeah.
And somehow like they've managed to just piece it together so they're kind of all right, but...
Yeah.
I think you can kind of see like the steps are all wet and everything.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look like they're being blown about by like hurricane force winds,
No.
which was kind of the case. So props to them.
I remember it was like in November or something, and some people just caught it being filmed, and you saw the whole thing. So you saw Colin's carriage being stopped.
Yep.
Someone like opened the door and they got handed something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So we were pretty sure that the Queen was going to be hunting for Lady Whistledown.
Right.
Because some TikToker captured footage of like a royal footman peering into Colin's carriage, and we're like, oh my God, they're searching for Lady Whistledown.
Mm-hmm. So we were almost on it. I think the only thing that we got slightly off was we thought that Colin would know about Whistledown by now. And so like receiving the bounty would be like, oh my God, she's in danger kind of thing.
I have to protect her. Yeah.
But instead they were just happily snuggling up in the back of the carriage.
Yeah. And part of the reason we knew that there was like a bounty is because there was this hilariously blurry shot of one of the royal footmen in the background, and he was handing out like these leaflets, which we actually used as memes to pass the time.
Of course.
But that's how we knew that there was going to be some sort of announcement that the Queen was going to probably give out regarding Lady Whistledown.
Yeah. There was a lot of footage from that day too. That was the other thing.
I know.
Yeah.
We got so much from that day.
You could see that the curtains were closed as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what was so funny about it. Like you could see this whole thing play out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So obviously the two are snuggling up quite happily until they see a little bit of kerfuffle outside the window, and Pen can't help herself, you know, and both of them are such gossips. So they stop the carriage, receive the bounty, and Colin begins to read the announcement.
Dearest members of my most esteemed ton, I hereby declare that whoever brings legitimate evidence of Lady Whistledown's identity to the palace shall receive a £5,000 reward. Yours truly, Her Majesty, Queen Charlotte.
So babe, that's ruined your day, hasn't it? You've got a house and you've got a queen on your tail. Poor Pen.
Yeah.
So Colin starts reading, and I think it's so funny how Pen like smooches closer and starting to check him out.
Yeah.
The second that she unlocks what's underneath that cravat, the girl never stops staring at his body, I'm telling you. Also, it's less than 24 hours since the two of them will last in a carriage with his hands up her skirt. So it's no wonder she's feeling a little hot for him.
Yeah.
And we also know that they've already conceived that baby during the mirror scene. So the girl had been ovulating that day. We can forgive a girl for wanting to pounce on Colin at any moment. We've all been there during that time of the month.
Getting pregnant after your first time is...
What a downer.
An achievement.
Yeah.
You know, it all worked out well in the end, but...
Not exactly something I'd love. Because it's like, I don't know, you're so horned up after you have sex for the first time. You're just like, hell yeah, what's this? Let's do it all the time. Even for women, I'm just going to say this, I'm an incredibly horny woman and I get horned up quite often.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it's like, you have sex, like it's your first time you've had all this sex, and then 7 weeks later you're throwing up and you can't stop and you're like, am I having so much sex? I am sick? And then you're like, no, I'm pregnant. And it's, no. No, thank you.
Well, Veg and Lecky and I were talking about this, and we were like, because she canonically gets pregnant in the mirror scene, like, that's what's been said. Everything else she has to deal with, she's pregnant with. So every other fucking hassle she has for the rest of the season, this is on top of it.
She's pregnant. Yeah.
But for now, she's just kind of feeling hot for him, so you can't blame a girl.
Mm-mm.
But that feeling is going to pass quite quickly thanks to the Queen's announcement that she wants to head on a spike.
Woo.
Colin is thrilled. He's having the time of his life. How's Penn taking the news?
In the script, amusingly, Penn originally wondered if this was a joke, clearly desperate for the situation not to be real. And Colin replied by saying, I have not known the Queen to be a great jester. But have you seen her wigs, Colin?
Also, what an elaborate joke. Whose joke would this be?
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess if you have like all the money in the world, printing out fake bounties, pretending that you're going to catch Lady Whistledown, it's at least one way to keep yourself occupied.
Also, Colin clearly doesn't pay attention to the Queen. The Queen loves a fucking joke. She loves stuff like that.
Yeah. Maybe that's why they cut it.
Yeah.
Also, just a reminder, the footmen took the Queen's carriage to hand out these flyers, and that doesn't really make much sense. It's kind of weird. Like, why are they taking the Queen's carriage? Did they all pile in there like a clown car? Who knows? It's also really tragic because, like, right before this, she's about to confess the truth to him. But then, of course, she's silenced once again because it becomes the worst possible moment to reveal her deception.
Because he's like, oh, great news. What were you going to tell me? And then she just pulls back again. And that for me is like the last time that I think she should have told him then. I understand that like it would have been awkward. But, you know, it's a good prompt, isn't it? It's like, oh, by the way, actually, whilst we're on the topic.
Yeah. It's definitely not a good moment to tell him.
It's topical.
But like this was maybe one of her few remaining opportunities to do so before really hurting him.
Before it gets like unexcusably too late, I think is the issue.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it could have just been like, Colin, I am Lady Whistledown. And he probably wouldn't have believed her at first. He would have been like, no, you're not. And she would have been like, no, I am. I feel like the way it would have played out would have been so different. You know, they probably would have rode in silence and then he would have stormed off and then wouldn't have heard from her and whatever. Yeah. But I think it would give the season more time for them to come back together and be like a stronger couple.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Yeah.
It
would definitely reframe the rest of part 2 and I would have maybe have liked it better. But of course they went in a different direction.
Yeah. And I also think if they did it that way, it would have really shown that like even if it's difficult, you should always go into a situation with honesty.
Yeah.
And I am speaking from experience in terms of relationships, because if we're talking about trust and everything, I feel like between Colin and Penn, and, you know, there is a happy ever after, whatever, they'll be fine. But there will always be that tiny hair of distrust because it's like, wow, you lied to me for so long and you had so many opportunities to bring this up to me and just tell me.
Yeah.
But instead, he found out on his own.
Yeah.
It would have been different if she had brought it up to him because it would have been like, this is what's happened. I know you're upset. And then it's like, he didn't have to find out.
Yep.
And I say that as someone who had to experience that.
Well, the most important topic that we have to factor into this scene, something that is raised by Gabby, our listener, who said, most importantly, where did Colin go to cosmetology school? Because he did an amazing job of putting her back together. Because she goes from being like completely disheveled on his sofa, like thoroughly ravished, to looking pristine. Her hair, which was in a complicated little style, back to normal. Where did you learn it?
There's actually a really cute piece of fan art by LILACS art where you see Colin pinning up her hair and he's concentrating very intensely on it. It's super sweet. We will share the link to it in our show notes. So I'd like to imagine that he put her back together, that he grew up with a bunch of sisters. He did their hair for fun.
100%. Yeah.
I do love that, but realistically, they probably just had one of the maids come in and fix her up.
No, I think it was him because he was like, we need to avoid the servants seeing you. I have full faith that, like, this boy grew up with Daphne. Are you telling me that Daphne didn't like recruit him into the dress-up games and like sit him down and perfectly with like military precision get him to understand how to do hair? I mean, he had Daphne, Eloise and Francesca. I think he'd been whipped into shape in no time.
Because Eloise probably refused to participate, so Daphne needed to recruit another participant, and it was Colin.
Yeah. I mean, just because he said that doesn't mean Penn was like, oh, we can just get Ray to come in, you know?
She wasn't there, though.
Was Ray even there?
No.
he paid her to go somewhere else today.
Yeah.
And he's good with his fingers. He's good with his fingers. Also, I feel like Penn is good at changing her disguises. She can probably put herself back together.
Yeah, that's true.
Because she changes in and out of her maid's costume all the time.
Yeah.
My God, they have a scene where she just like gets together in no time, and Colin's like, "Whoa, do you have places to be?"
Mistress of disguise.
Mm-hmm.
But my headcanon notices him. But that's how we leave them. And I do have compassion for Pen because, I mean, I've been in that position where you know you have a secret. Because what was happening is the revelation about the Queen's bounty is just like everything has been pulled out from under her immediately.
That's true.
And, you know, she chooses not to tell the truth again. To be fair, she's having a busy day. So she says nothing. And the two of them settle back into the carriage ride.
Perfect excuse.
To Grosvenor Square. Colin is so blissfully content to have her in his arms. He was so happy, but she's just like gone grey practically.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens when the truth catches up with you, babe. Later that night, we're back in the study at Bridgerton House. Colin has presumably managed to sneak a vaguely dishevelled Penelope into her own house in Mayfair, and we now find him flipping through one of his journals before sitting down to get some editing done.
Also, actually, it was daytime when they were in the carriage, and then by the time Penelope strolls into her drawing room and is snacking, it's like nighttime, they've got a fire roaring, so maybe they took a couple detours.
Just kept going round and round and round.
Anyway, the script tells us that we find Colin in high spirits, unpacking his journals from the box they went into. As he picks up his quill and begins editing them, Eloise stills in the doorway. I really love this little detail from the scripts, which suggests that Penelope's love and their earlier discussion, where she praised his writing and expressed interest in seeing his journals, is what inspired him to start editing them. But to dive a little more deeply into the timeline of it all, in a little bit of cut dialogue, Elle reveals that Colin had been out for quite some time. When he says that he's been looking for her, she originally replied by saying, "Have you? You've been gone all day," which prompted Colin to correct himself, saying he was looking for her, meaning that morning. This, of course, is a reference to the cutscene we mentioned earlier where Violet found Colin knocking on Elle's door earlier that day.
Well, seeing as though the little exchange was cut, Eloise instead simply stands quietly in the doorway before Colin invites her into the room to sit. Whilst I am sad that we lost that previous scene of Colin outside Eloise's door that we'd have covered in our last episode, I think her silence here is really funny because it's like not only extraordinarily rare for Eloise to be silent on any matter, but I think it also makes the scene feel a bit more uneasy because Colin can't quite gauge her reaction.
Yeah.
And they haven't had that head-to-head yet.
And there's the tension of whether or not Eloise is going to tell him herself.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's hanging over them as well.
Yeah.
And also, I just want to give a shout out to his outfit here because I know we've already seen this particular outfit in many states of undress and distress, even throughout a little balloon tugging, but I do especially enjoy it by candlelight. And I know that Veg also enjoys a little billowy sleeve moment here, so deeply appreciated. But Elle sits down and closes her throat, arms firmly crossed, looking less than impressed with her brother. Colin immediately apologises for not telling her about Penn sooner, which feels very classically Colin. We can make a pretty long compilation of all the times he spent apologising to every single person in his life. But sadly, Eloise doesn't quite have a strong enough stomach to sit and listen to Colin wax poetic about his feelings for Penn. I do think it's quite a funny element because she's really upset about the situation, but then Claudia Jessie does also play the little like, this is really gross card, just so slightly, which kind of lightens it a little bit. So she tries to abandon ship and heads for the door, but Colin jumps after her before Elle rounds on him and says, "It's strange enough to have one's brother speaking about feelings of one's friend, but you knew we were at odds and still went behind my back." So she's getting the double whammy of being grossed out and betrayed. And you know what? I can't blame her for feeling blindsided.
Yeah.
Because from Elle's perspective, this has come out of nowhere. Well,
she should have just paid any attention and she would have realized this was going on.
Had she used her eyes in any of the preceding episodes? Because it's funny, isn't it? Because they had that moment from 304 that was cut. So when Penn was following Debling after the dance,
where she literally asks, "What is going on?"
Yeah.
She asks, like, "Are you still helping Penelope?" She's completely clueless.
Yeah.
like that's the only moment where Eloise was like starting to put the puzzle pieces together, but they chose to take that out of the final edit. So they chose to completely blindside her, which I think is maybe why they did it, to sort of heighten Eloise's shock.
Yeah.
So what has Colin got to say for himself, Lek?
Colin immediately concedes, saying, "I know, and I am deeply sorry." In the final version of the episode, Colin then continues by saying, "But I love her, Eloise, in more ways than I can even express," which again starts to make Elle feel a little queasy. However, there was actually a cut line here in Colin's apology where Colin talked about earning Eloise's forgiveness. He would have said, "I know, I am deeply sorry. I hope with time I can earn your forgiveness, but I love her, Eloise, in more ways than I can even express."
Aww.
Yeah, it's an interesting little line. I wonder if they cut it because A, it doesn't really go go anywhere because, like, he doesn't pursue this line of needing Eloise's forgiveness.
No, yeah.
That's what I would think. I don't think Colin needs to earn Eloise's forgiveness. It's Penelope, really.
No, and it's also like the siblings, you know?
Yeah.
And also, I think Eloise was in the dark, but Colin is very much still in the dark with everything. He doesn't know why they argued. He doesn't understand why they aren't friends anymore because Eloise has been so, like, standoffish. Because, you know, she's also trying to hide Penelope's secret as well, which is a testament to still, like, loving her as a friend, even if they are separated.
And even if that goes against her love for her brother, which is like a central tension for her.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it almost feels slightly like projection. Like she's upset because there's this stuff being hidden. But I also feel like inwardly she's upset with herself because she also has a secret that she can't tell him. And she knows he's in the dark as well.
Yeah, I think the other reason it was cut is because Colin ends up saying something really similar to Penelope during the church scene in 306. Do you know the moment where he's like, I will spend the rest of my life earning your forgiveness for not seeing you? And it's like,
stop apologizing, people pleaser.
Yeah. This is it. I'm like, I'm not convinced he's done that much wrong to be going around offering himself on the altar of repentance for every single person in his life.
No.
Especially when he hasn't done anything wrong.
Right.
So I feel like they cut it out because it's just a bit unnecessary.
I mean, he's a Pisces.
He is a Pisces, and oh my God, is that the case?
Also during this scene, Eloise points out that Colin was actually the one who met Penn first. She also brought this up during her earlier conversation with Cressida, so it's definitely something that's on Elle's mind. Book fans, you know this was also true in the book, where Colin again met Penelope before Eloise did. I'm glad they included this, not only as a nice nod to the book, but because it reveals a little more of that very first bond that Colin and Penelope had before Eloise was even in the picture.
A few moments of peace, I suppose, before their third wheel joined them for the rest of time.
But it also hints at Eloise's own feelings about Polin's friendship. Now that she knows about the relationship, she can go back and recognize that maybe there was always a particular bond between the two.
And our lovely listener, Tiff, said, it's pretty clear in the show that Colin, Penn and Elle have always been a bit of a threesome. So when Colin and Elle finally had their discussion about him going behind her back to get together with Penn, do you think that was fair of Elle? Especially since Penn and Colin have never really kept their friendship a secret from the Ton, and Elle is just so self-absorbed that she never saw it coming.
Yeah, that's it.
It's true she asked in 302 whether he was dating her, and he said no. So it's not necessarily all Elle's fault that she didn't know, but at the same time, is it fair?
Elle is kind of selfish and she doesn't really pay attention to other people. I feel like we talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
And I feel like the conflict with Penelope, it's not fair to, you know, take that out on Colin. Because, like, literally the worst thing he's done is follow his heart and fall in love with somebody.
Yeah.
You can't really betray somebody, you know, a sibling by falling in love. It's just not fair to him.
Yeah. And like I said before, I think it's partially projection because, you know, she's upset for not knowing anything. And at the same time, she's also hiding something from Colin as well. That's the other thing too. It's not that she's lying, it's that she's withholding, which is still lying.
The intent to deceive.
Yeah, and she still knows it's wrong to deceive him as such. And she is selfish too, and I also think it's a sense of jealousy. You know, he has this connection to Penn, and this is someone that she was friends with, and I think even if her and Penn were on good terms, she would still be upset by them being together, because it's very much that, like, little sister figuring out that your friend and your brother are dating each other, and it's like, but this is my person, not yours. Like, why do you get to have access to them? And it feels like they'll be taken away from her, essentially.
Yeah. But someone who hasn't been taken away from us. A gift has been bestowed upon us. It is a vegetable. Hello, a vegetable.
Hello.
Here she is. So in the episode, you wouldn't have missed her for that long. She'd have been out, she'd have been in. So welcome back. Very good to have you, babe.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
Amazing.
Good news. So if you notice a change in sound, it's because this was recorded many, many weeks later. So we're currently with Elle and Colin. He's got his billowy sleeves that you love. I've already given you a shout out.
An exasperated Elle tells Colin it's probably better if he doesn't try to express his love for Penelope, but Colin instead points out that Eloise loved her once too. Elle scoffs at his words, but he continues, saying, "You were inseparable. I remember the day the Featheringtons moved in across the square. From then on, it was Penelope this and Penelope that, and Penelope and I are reading Don Quixote, and we are going to be knights." I really love that we hear more about their childhood from Colin in this scene. It's interesting that, like in 302, it is Colin who brings up their childhood years and offers a little glimpse into what that early dynamic was like between them all. We obviously would have killed to have seen this in a flashback, but it is very sweet to hear it in such detail from Colin, proving that he has always held those early memories of Penn close to him.
Aww. And how does it go down, like?
So the scene description notes that Colin's speech tugs on Eloise's heartstrings against her will. You can see her starting to melt a little as she remembers, I was devastated to learn we are not allowed to take fencing lessons.
Oh, I love the way that Colin smiles, sort of half at the memory of young Penn and Eloise, and half at knowing that he's just starting to chip away and break through to Eloise, even if it's just the tiniest little bit. And this just ties into how much I really adore all of Colin and Eloise's scenes throughout season 3. I think their joint arc that they have is one of my favourite parts of the whole story. And here I think it's interesting that Colin reaches into Penelope and Eloise's past and their childhood, which is a past that he's a part of too, to try to reconnect Eloise to her broken friendship with Penn. And he doesn't know it yet, but he's going to end up doing the same thing for himself in 308 when he feels very distant from this current version of Penelope that's in front of him. And so to reconnect to that girl that he knew, he goes back into their shared past through their letters to sort of find that girl that he's always known again. I also think it's really well done how he and Elle, especially in part 2, really take it in turns to be the ones to guide each other back to their relationships. They sort of take over. So Eloise gets back there eventually, and then she sort of guides Colin once they're married into, as she says, not letting his marriage be consumed by it.
Reconciliation.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it would have been easier for it to be played very, very flatly, like where it's just jealousy between the two, or they're competing outright, or they sort of resent each other's claim on Penn. But I think it's more layered than that. And you have that tension and past relationship tied up with their bound shared love for Penn, and then their shared love for each other as well as siblings.
Yeah, and it's really resonant of the relationship that the audience has had with them too. Like, it isn't a new love story like Benefi or like Cancely was. It's this story that we are told has so much history, so it's nice to see it reflected on.
It's nice to hear about it.
Exactly.
I'd have loved to have seen it, babe.
Yeah, well.
No flashbacks, but it's alluded to.
That's what the imagination's for, right?
Yeah. There is another bit of cut dialogue from Colin here. It's kind of on the nose, which is why I think it was cut. But Colin originally said, I do not know what happened between you two, and I do not even know that I would understand it even if you told me, but Penn is going to be your sister soon. And as we know, the line about being Penn's sister is still in the show as he continues by saying, there was a time that would have been your greatest dream.
That line about him not understanding it, that harkens back to a book moment, I think, as well, where he looks at their friendship and he knows that they have such a special bond that he can't quite understand. And that's like a really beautiful notion in the book, that he's like, oh, they have this really unique relationship. But I think maybe here it's taken out because he's like, I don't know what happened between you two. I don't think I'd understand it, but it is so about him, and it's going to hit him in the face that it maybe doesn't quite have the same sort of like, you guys keep your secrets kind of vibe. But Colin continues to appeal to Elle by saying it would mean the world to him and Penn to have Eloise's blessing.
As the script says, Eloise thinks a moment, not unmoved by his words. You can definitely see Claudia Jessie portraying this moment well, clearly thinking upon Colin's words. However, there is once again another small cut moment here where Elle originally told Colin, let us see how things go at your celebration this week, basically hinting that she'd only come around if Penn came clean about her secret at the engagement ball. Maybe they cut this because Elle's being a little too direct about the secret. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I kind of like the scene because I love Elle and Colin, but Veg, do you have mixed emotions?
Yeah, I have to confess I don't really like it. It's like everything that Eloise and Colin say to each other is just something that's aimed at twisting the knife further for the viewers. Like, this half of the season is a lot of that. Like, they're like, oh, here's an opportunity to make things more dramatic.
Yeah.
More full of chaos.
Yeah.
Yes, we know that Colin hates Lady Whistledown. Fine. Pre-season 3, I didn't think he particularly gave a shit, even with the Marina stuff. So, honestly, this feels a bit like a campaign to maybe correct for that. Maybe just to cause pain in the Shondaland world. But, yeah, dislike.
Well, the good news is, at least we have a bit of a timeline with the episode, which is fucking rare in the world of Bridgerton. So we now know that the party was that week. Things are moving fast. And speaking of fast, Colin whips back around to his desk and bestows Eloise with a gift to cheer her up. With a happy smile, he presents her with the Queen's bounty and says, I know you despise Whistledown as much as I do. Just as we were saying, thanks for that quick stab to the heart, Colin.
Yeah.
And leaves Eloise to be lost in her conflicted thoughts over Penn, Whistledown, and her brother, who is unknowingly tangled in the middle of it. So cheerful stuff. How's it going everywhere else?
Eloise is not the only person reading up on the Queen's bounty, as we drop in at the Cowper residence, finding Cressida sneaking a glance at the bounty, which she is carefully concealing under the table on her lap.
And we're not the only ones popping over for tea, are we?
To Cressida's delight, or misfortune, she is joined by Lord Greer, who is sitting with Lady Cowper and discussing his depressing plans for Cressida's future. And for those who missed the Eros and Psyche parallels, there are some interesting references to a different Greek myth here, specifically the story of Hades and Persephone, as Lord Greer is basically talking about snatching Cressida away from the only parts of life that she enjoys, being out and about in society. She's constantly wearing feathers this season, and there are allusions to her being a caged bird that yearns to be free, and here Lord Greer is cruelly telling her he plans to eliminate what little freedoms she does have. And this is mirrored in the cinematography as well, with really dark and almost hellish lighting and a burning fireplace in the background, as well as the set design, as you can see some pomegranates scattered throughout the room.
So clever. And Jess Brownell told the Bridgerton podcast, that set design Alison Gartshaw did and Cressida's home was genius. We thought of it from the beginning as the anti-Bridgerton house. Alison designed the room so it was coffin-like, really tall and narrow instead of shorter and wider, which is more cozy and comforting. When you stepped into that set in person, it felt really foreboding, especially here, as you say, where we're in hell, we're in the underworld, and she's being dragged down against her will. And it's a really bleak scene which raises the real stakes that are so much higher for Cressida and for the audience's attitudes towards her, because once we learn what fate befalls her, I think we all know that that's not a justified ending for her to suffer in that way. And we're hearing the reality, which is so brutal, of what is waiting for her and what that future is going to look like. And it's horrifying to realise how little control she is going to have, especially when the conversation turns towards the children that Cressida would have to bear him. 4 or 5, Greer expects. And how the hell is Cress going to get out of this horror show? Well, the card in her lap might just have the answer. And I've always thought this was such a clever shot, because Cressida reacts to Greer's expectation for children by glancing down towards her womb, where instead the bounty notice is secretly hidden in her lap. So this is quite literally Cressida's get out of jail card. And as Cressida runs her hand over the promise of £5,000, a plan is starting to form. What could possibly go wrong? It's been quite a big day for everyone involved, but for none more so than Pen. She's been pulled headfirst fearless into an engagement. She's argued with Mum, been gifted a house by Colin, lost her virginity, gained a pregnancy, and had her entire livelihood put on the line by the Queen's bounty. It's got to work up a girl's appetite, you know.
Pen is definitely feeling a little peckish, as we'll see when we return to the Featheringtons' house. Philippa and Prudence are already snacking as they discuss Lady Whistledown's true identity. Pen strides into the room and confidently announces that Whistledown won't be discovered because she's too good at hiding herself. I wouldn't count on that if I were you, Pen.
But Pen is in no mood to listen as she heads straight to the biscuits. Talk about relationships changing a girlie.
Yeah.
Nicholas spoke of this scene in an interview, saying there was a scene where she decided Penelope would be super hungry and snacking on biscuits. Hilariously, of course, this is a Penelope who has gone several rounds with Colin post-mirror scene.
Works up an appetite. She's had a very busy day, but Prudence unknowingly draws a line straight from Lady Whistledown to Pen saying, speaking of hiding, before digging at Pen about Colin. But before she can get too far, the 3 pregnant and ravenous Featheringtons are joined by Portia, who declares, girls, you shall not abuse your sister in this household.
Yay!
Fucking turn for events.
This conversation is hilarious. I love it.
Yeah.
Pen looks at Portia as though she's grown an extra head when she announces, we've all been acting in an uncouth way of late. Just the past 19 years, Portia. No big deal.
Yep. I love how Portia tries to turn things around here, and her delivery of Featherington support one another is just so great.
Yeah.
Beans, you missed part 1 of the episode when Portia had a big turn in the story. How much are you loving the Portia that we get in the rest of the season?
I mean, I love all versions of Portia, even when she's a little bit of a bitch. It's interesting, you know, she saw so much of Pen when Pen kind of called her out after the whole doubling shit. And then, so I think it's like she's now seeing and recognizing her daughter as a person. And I feel like at first it feels very empty because it's a quick switch, right?
Well, we're in Pen's perspective. It feels empty.
Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't buy it. Yeah.
Right. And, you know, and I think in some ways Portia's sort of like, oh shit, like my daughter actually did this? Damn. And so it's like impressive for Portia. But I feel like she still doesn't see or feel the depths of her daughter yet. And I like that we're finally getting this sort of shift towards like her actually comprehending Pen as being like a living, breathing person who has feelings and is smart and is very much like Portia herself in some aspects. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, here Pen instantly calls out Portia on her hypocrisy, pointing back to that scene earlier from that same morning where Portia was having a go at Pen over her engagement, accusing her of entrapping Colin. God forbid anyone do that. But Portia accepts that she's been unkind, but says it stops from now. And you know what? This is a thing. You're proven by your actions, isn't it?
Right.
It actually does stop. Yeah. And I really respect that kind of character growth, because my pet hate in life is when someone just apologizes to clear the air and to just like brush over something, but then they never actually changes their actions. But from every step from this point out, like Portia makes a concerted effort
to be better.
Yeah.
To change and be better and to recognize her daughters and to support them in the most hilarious way.
That's a good point, because oftentimes with the Bridgertons, they learn a lesson, but they kind of go back to being, you know, fussy or whatever. Like Violet with Eloise, she's like, oh, you know, I gave you a season off and now you should kind of get back into society. And I think Portia is different because it's very clear that her lessons are beginning to stick. And while she will still have like points where she's like, oh, you know, maybe we could play around with this here, it feels like there's an actual character arc and growth.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Portia decides the engagement party is going to be their fresh start, but disinvites both Prudence and Philippa to give them time to reflect on how they're going to amend their behavior toward their sister.
And our listeners were asking so many questions about this. Murphy's mama said, can you imagine the chaotic magnitude of glory that would have ensued had Danquith and Cheeseman attended the engagement party?
Would have loved it.
Gawping at the scrumptious sweets tower, shouting out woefully incorrect charades answers, being utterly unhelpful in pen fates. I would have loved to sing Colin in bro mode with the Mrs. Featherington.
Oh.
Debbie said, why were the Featherington sisters left out of the engagement party? It could have been so much fun with them all there. I totally agree. I so wish Prudence and the Finches had been there.
Yeah. A repeat of the grape scene.
Yeah.
But with whatever pastry is on display.
I wonder if, like, when the writers were settling down and they're like, this is too much chaos.
Yeah, like in season 2 where both Colin and Benedict were supposed to be high.
Yeah.
They had to, like, dial it back a little bit.
Yeah. But I still would have given anything for them to have been there.
Nicola is also so funny in this scene as she just wears this look of astonishment, like she's been transported into a parallel universe upon hearing what Portia has said. With biscuits still in hand, it really was a busy afternoon on that chaise after all. She escapes to her room to read.
She does. And off we head to Penelope's bedroom, where she is looking beautiful in the light of the fire. And Pen is back in one of her stunning nightgowns. You all know by now that we are big fans of a nighttime Pen look. Well, at least I am, but I feel like you guys are.
Sign me up any day of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. And her hair is also pinned up in an almost like 1950s rosy...
Yes, she looks just like Rosie the Riveter.
Yeah, with her ribbon.
Super cute.
And she's sat cross-legged on the chair as she writes her next issue of Whistledown. Personally, I would probably just be taking a nap if I had a day like hers, but hustler's got to hustle. She's a worker. Through and through.
And what's Lady Whistledown got to say for herself? There's been quite a lot going on.
There has. It seems the only thing quicker than the match between Miss Featherington and Mr. Bridgerton is the rest of London's quick return to old ways, with Lady Featherington racing to attach herself to the Bridgertons and the Queen back on her fruitless hunt for Lady Whistledown. Oh dear, fighting words. But this secret is one that cannot be rushed.
I find this kind of revealing in a few ways. I think, firstly, it points out that London has pretty much gone back to normal after the news of the Polin engagement. And I suppose it kind of explains why the Ton were generally pretty unaffected by the news in the long run. And maybe this is one of those cases where Lady Whistledown is shaping society and she's sort of hurrying the reaction along, being like, that was interesting, but moving along now.
Yeah.
Kind of old news to stop the Ton from dwelling on it too much.
Yeah, I think so.
She's also trying to mainly downplay the Queen's bounty by just saying, oh yeah, the Queen's up to it again. Sort of business as usual, no big news. But the Queen has significantly raised the stakes against Whistledown, and Pen is now, once again, when isn't she, in crisis mode, trying to tamper the excitement and the frenzy that we know the Ton will work themselves into. And lastly, which ties into what you were saying, Beans, I think this also shows Pen's skepticism towards her mother when she says, you know, Lady Featherington is trying to attach herself to the Bridgertons again. I think this really shows Pen's view of her mum at this stage. She thinks that Portia's change of ways is just another scheme to get closer to the Bridgertons rather than genuinely trying to be a better mother. And so I think this is something that keeps surprising her in the future episodes. But most of all, she looks beautiful.
It's also possible that Penelope may be doing some time traveling here, as an official still of the scene, taken by Liam Daniel, was listed as being from episode 307, so this was likely a cut moment from that episode. So here's a peek at a future Pen, and hopefully one under significantly less pressure. It's finally the next day, so everyone can take a deep exhale after that whirlwind of 24 hours. Throughout Mayfair, we find members of the Ton reading through Whistledown's latest issue with interest. We also briefly stop by the Kent estate. As Lord Kent studies a plate with a table painted on it atop a table, Alice chides Will for not paying enough attention to their children.
That man cannot catch a break. He's literally doing his best. If he was sat there, like, gambling away his livelihood, like other people we could mention, he's literally just doing the ledgers. And she's like, can it not wait? And it's like, probably not, actually.
Yeah, my business is failing, basically. Yeah.
Well, I suppose everyone else is busy getting ready for Penn and Colin's engagement party, but we have somewhere to be before then, right?
Yes, before we head over to the party, there is actually another cut Benedict and Tilly scene, which would have directly followed the Mondridge scene and gone just before the engagement ball.
Okay, we're gonna enact the whole scene, guys. So I'm casting you.
Oh, shit.
All right.
Lecky, you're on scene descriptions.
Okay.
Veg, I know you're good at the Colin voice, but I'm gonna need something else here. You give me Benedict today. I don't know what Benedict sounds like in the audiobook.
Okay.
So, Beans, I want your best Tilly.
Okay.
Now, is she going to be Victorian, Dickensian?
Waif-like.
Tilly, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay.
But I want your best.
Okay.
So this is a cut scene. Let's reenact it. We're bringing it to life, okay? This is the closest they're going to have to reality.
I'm ready.
Action.
Interior, Tilly's house foyer. Day. We find Benedict waiting in the foyer for Tilly, the slightest bit nervous. Finally, Tilly makes her way down, formally greeting Ben in front of the servants.
Mr. Bridgerton.
Lady Arnold. I was trying to do more bravado, but I went a bit cockney. Let me try that again. Lady Arnold.
As the servants clear, Tilly comes in closer, intimate.
I have an appointment at my banker's. Can you come back this evening?
My brother's betrothal party is tonight.
We are slipping down the class system rapidly.
Tilly offers a playful frown.
Can I have a playful frown?
Very well. When are you next available?
Oh my god, that was so playful and frowny. You know, this party is my new sister's debut as Viscountess. She has planned quite an event.
A ball is one thing, but a family event rather feels like it breaks our rules, does it not?
Benedict looks down, unable to mask his disappointment.
It is only that I know the limits of what I can give, and I fear you may seek a degree of intimacy I cannot afford you.
I seek nothing from you, Lady Arnold. There is no hidden trap to ensnare you into a conventional courtship.
Brutal.
I don't know what this voice is, I'm just opening my mouth wide. I simply enjoy breaking the rules every now and then, and would very much enjoy your company. I do hope you enjoy your evening.
Off this, Ben heads out on a thoughtful Tilly.
Bitch.
Wow, that was something.
Thank you.
Lecky, just in case everyone was too distracted by those moving Emmy Award-winning performances, can you just summarise the cutscene for us?
Yes, so when Benedict asks Tilly to come to the party, she's kind of concerned that Ben wants more out of the relationship than she can give him. She reminds him that they've established rules. Basically, they've agreed to keep things casual. And she says she's now worried that Benedict is seeking a degree of intimacy that she cannot afford to give him. Benedict is visibly disappointed, but assures her that he simply enjoys her company and would like her there, and Tilly is left contemplating the idea, basically.
This is so weird as a scene. We've touched on this a lot in our previous episodes because we have another example here of how heavily the Tilly Benedict storyline was reworked.
Yeah.
Right through the editing process. This isn't just sort of the script stages. We know that it was still up in the air as they were editing it. And so had we had this, we'd have Ben going over, visibly nervous to see her. He's then super disappointed when she turns him down. So you can see how this is setting up the original storyline, which would have had Ben far more invested in Tilly.
Yeah.
Then she was going to be invested in him. And obviously we know that by the end, they flipped that entirely so that Tilly became more attached to Benedict. And then she was the one who was left disappointed. So this is why we see so many cut scenes in the scripts, because they had to rework it.
So these cut moments better set up Tilly's change of heart at the end of this season. But I think maybe they cut this because Ben's journey of wanting more to realizing that he prefers casual entanglements would maybe seem too jarring if it was left in, because the script basically convinces us here that Ben was developing real feelings for Tilly, so him then rejecting Tilly's offer of a more serious relationship may have seemed more unrealistic if they'd kept that all in.
So we had this big setup in this episode where like Benedict is really hoping that she's going to turn up and it's a will she, won't she?
And Antony recognizes that Benedict has serious feelings for her and is like, you have to go tell her. He literally tells Colin, go confess your feelings to Penelope, and tells Benedict to do the same to Tilly, basically.
They're like equated, same level.
Yeah. I also have to point out that Benedict's line about how he simply enjoys breaking the rules every now and then. He's kind of trying to save face in the scene, but it was an interesting line to me that almost kind of seemed like foreshadowing for season 4 and how he's going to break societal rules to be with his true love, Sophie.
So is Tilly going to turn up at the party? We won't have to wait too long to find out because it's time to head over to Bridgerton House for some Polin festivities. As Ben pointed out in the cutscene, this is Kate's first go at throwing a gathering. So how is it looking, Veg?
Well, she's done a great job. There's horses and carriages outside, so people have come.
Yeah, people showed up.
Amazing.
Yeah. And inside the Bridgerton foyer, Kate has gone to town with the decorations.
The script states that Kate has transformed the hall into a divine reception with flowers, food, candles, and decor. Ben agrees with this assessment, telling Kate that she has truly outdone herself.
Yeah.
Or I suppose done herself because she hasn't done it before.
Yeah.
But nice gesture. And in fact, Kate has included some Featherington symbolism into the decor, which is a lovely touch. And this was shared in the Netflix To Dim article, which said, for all Penelope's changes this season, the series found subtle ways to celebrate and call back to the Penelope we've all come to know and love. Butterflies, a Featherington family motif, crop up atop the macarons.
Very cute.
And these macarons were actually part of a collab the show did with La Durée, a French patisserie known across the world for its high-end pastries and macarons.
Are you going to affect a French accent?
Oh, apologies.
Sorry, are you making her do the sales pitch for this now?
I'm sorry. Do you remember those episodes that we did about a journal with stickers? We've made episodes about a cup of tea, a t-shirt.
All right.
I'm just trying to be thorough. The project that we're embarking on is a thorough capturing of the entire Polin story, and this is part of it.
All right. Okay, I'm seated. I'm excited.
Good. Sit down, Lecky.
2 limited edition macarons in either lemon filled with a honey and lemon ganache in a Featherington family colors, or chai tea filled with an Assam tea spiced ganache in the Bridgerton family colors. Each limited edition macaron comes topped with the family-themed design of either a butterfly for the Featherington family or a doe for the Bridgerton family. Let's a doe, a deer, a female deer. And the macarons were encased in a diamond... Oh.
This is very sales pitchy, actually.
Sorry. If you're interested, the macarons were encased in a diamond-shaped, ribbon-tied macaron gift box representing the theme of everlasting love that runs throughout the It Show. Each gift box contains 14 macarons.
14 for the theme of everlasting love. Great.
Well, a sonnet is the most romantic form of poetry, and that's 14 lines long.
Wow.
I was going to say the fact that the Bridgerton macaron is like chai tea flavored was actually kind of cute.
Oh, like Kate inspired.
Yeah, that is cute.
Because it shows that like Kate's influence is rubbing off on the family. I love that.
Look, there it is. That's the only reason I made you say it. I bought it, didn't I?
Oh.
I just really liked the box. Yeah, I bought it. So my review is the Featherington was really nice. The Bridgerton wasn't for me. I don't really like chai.
Oh, weird. I love chai.
And it was spiced. So you can also buy the famous last macaron that we see in 306. But that's a discussion for another rewatch. If you're ever doing a Bridgerton tour of London, you can stop by La Durée and get one. And that sounds like we're sponsored. But, well, they don't have the Bridgerton ones anymore. But you can get the last chocolate macaron. If you want to make your tour very, very authentic. One day I think me and Veg should do a tour. But anyway, sorry about the sales pitch halfway through there. Well done, Kate. A lot of effort to arrange that collab.
Yeah. And she's visually unifying the Bridgerton and Featherington families. There's the entire flower market's worth of yellow and blue flowers as well.
So the script continues by saying, so far it's just the Bridgertons, A, B, C, E, F, Violet, Cressida, Lady Danbury, and a few faces we might not recognize, old friends of the family who have come into town for the celebration.
Old friends, did you say? Hold that thought, Lek, because we will come back to check the guest list a little bit later. But back to the Bridgertons, Kate tells ABC that they all look dashing. And here I must draw your attention to a very exciting moment, listeners. Pause your screens at 37:41 for a rare instance of ABC standing in alphabetical order.
Yay.
Delightful. I think they'll do it loads in season 4 because Benedict will be in the middle. So it'll be ABC.
Hopefully.
Please. But as Anthony points out, there is someone else who looks even more dashing. Did someone go and remember that there's a fourth brother?
The siblings turn to find Greg and Hi making their way downstairs, with Gregory wearing a fine hat, as Anthony puts it. Gregory says that he'll be an Eton man soon, setting up what seems to be part of his storyline in season 4, and his siblings lovingly watch him as Kate guides him to greet their guests.
And this is also rather momentous because it seems like Gregory's arm has finally recovered from whatever had impaled, walloped, whatever him.
Time has finally passed.
As the Modriches arrive, I just want to point out a cute detail from the scripts. As Nikki bows to greet Hyacinth, the scene description says that Nikki takes one look at Hyacinth and does an exaggerated bow, clearly smitten.
Aww.
Could this be a sign he's Gareth, potentially Hyacinth's love interest from the future books, or maybe an initial love interest for Hi? Weirdly, they cut out Nikki's reaction almost entirely in the final edit, so if he is a future love interest, maybe they didn't want to give it away yet.
Yeah, some of our listeners asked about this, and I think I suggested this like the second I saw it without really thinking it through, naturally. I mean, it isn't Gareth, so it can't be, because like, why would they completely change his name?
Well,
but then it does kind of feel like they're setting the Mundriches up to do something. But if you think about it, in the books, Gareth is Lady Danbury's grandchild, right? It would be really weird if they did that in the show, because although we know that Lady D does have children and then probably grandchildren, if they're setting Marcus up to get with Violet, is that a bit too weird to then have Hyacinth get with Lady Danbury's grandchild? Sorry, Beans for the spoilers.
I won't remember it.
I don't know. It feels like an interesting way to kind of keep the Modriches involved in the main plot in future seasons, to do something like that, like make Nikki into a love interest for Hyacinth. Either the initial love interest, kind of like a Marina character, or maybe...
We do love a triangle, don't we? Also, keep an eye on Anthony in the scene, because you can see him in the background and he's smiling as he watches Greg and Hyacinth greeting the guests. Like the whole time he's just watching them. And he's always had very sweet father-like bond with his younger siblings, but it's even more touching knowing he's about to become a dad of his own. But with the promise of seeing a bow and arrow, the kids head off and leave us to welcome the rest of the guests, including a bride-to-be, perhaps.
In walks the lady of the hour herself, along with Portia. Portia is not too impressed by the decorations, but as the script says, Pen's hardly listening to her mama. Despite the heaviness she's feeling, she can't help but feel joy as she enters into this night all designed for her, with everyone's eyes lighting up as they see her.
Oh, it is a sweet moment. And you can see her doing that classic Pen thing of looking around and taking it all in, a little bit overwhelmed. And it is funny because if you watch everyone's reactions, they are all like sort of staring at her and smiling really intensely. Because I suppose it's a curated guest list, that's the important thing. But everyone being nice to her must be a shock to her system, because A, has she ever been noticed before by anyone in the ton? No. And B, if she has been, she's been mocked for it. So the fact that we have an absence of both, groundbreaking.
The script continues by saying, her smile grows as she spots Colin arriving. He greets Pen with a kiss on the hand.
Yep, Colin had been stirred with Fran, Vi and Lady D, but heads straight for Pen when he sees her walk into the room. I say that he heads straight for Pen, but you'll probably notice that there's a few editing glitches on the way that makes it look like he has a few false starts before he actually reaches her, gets there in the end, and if that ain't just the whole Polin storyline summed up, then I don't know what is. He finally reaches Pen, greeting her as his bride-to-be. Veg, this was another little moment where we were like clutching our little fingers together when we were watching it, with a really proud smile, which honestly sent us melting into our seats. He kisses her hand as she smiles and greets him.
I love this moment. We get some great Polin gazes here, and I just love everything from when he kisses her hand. Like, she's just so in love with him. You could just tell from the way she's looking at him. It's just perfect. I love it.
How are they looking, Veg, beyond in love?
Oh, wow. Colin is wearing a waistcoat in this scene that he's worn 3 times before. At the Four Seasons ball, iconic. In the promenade, and drinking with the boys. And he will go on to wear it again too, making it the most worn in this season. Thank you again to Book Movie TV Worm for collating that. And while I'm all for outfit sustainability...
Reduce, reuse, recycle! I don't know why I did that accent.
It would have been nice to see him in a new look, honestly. Dare I say something yellow? You know, dress up for the occasion. It's a party. An exclusive party. Come on. However, give him his due. He has donned a nice velvet jacket for the occasion, and his hair is super neat, and his collar/cravat is real ruffled, and he looks like a sweetie here.
He does. He's so in love. Gosh.
Great. Love that for him. Back to Pen. Pen looks absolutely fabulous, and I would not be surprised if her dress had been primed for the heavy breathing that precedes her fainting. I'm sure Beans is a fan.
Oh, love it.
It's very chesty.
Yes.
Yeah, we've got some Regency deep breaths taking place. You do a great Regency breathing.
Me?
Babe, just to point out.
Oh, you're talking about my boobs. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I just mean in general. Like, I think you'd just have a great Regency air to your panic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that.
My literal panic attacks.
Yeah. You'd look great.
Yeah. I will say I got the bosoms to do it. So
Yeah.
You do have a heaving bosom. Heaving? Heaving.
Heaving, yeah.
Not a heathen bosom.
no, the men that look at my bosoms are heathens. Can I talk about this really fast too, though?
Yeah.
Hold on, before we move on. Talking about boobs. Or just women in general. Why is it that men have, like, even before I broke up with this guy or whatever, so many guys came out of the woodwork and were like, hey, I've been thinking about you. How are you? Blah, blah, blah. It's like they just have intuition for when you're single. I was like, leave me the fuck alone. Leave me alone.
This is a PSA. If you are a man, do not come near Beans anytime soon.
Just leave me alone.
Back to another icon, Pen.
Mhm.
Her hair is long and loose this time, with super sweet little bow ribbons that Farida Guedha designed to complement Pen's dress. She brings the hair in at the nape of the neck, and there's a fullness to it which is meant to evoke Veronica Lake and a fringe inspired by Marilyn Monroe. And Veronica Lake was an old American film actress from the sort of Hollywood age.
Iconic. Also, I have to give a shout out. The reclamation of the bows. Beautiful.
Yeah.
The journey that we've been on, guys.
Honestly, every bow outfit that Penn had this season, I loved. Like the little bows that she had when she was talking to Debling, I loved that style. That was one of my favorites.
Yes, the little chignon. That's very cute.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the bows ended up being nice and like working in her favor this season. So
Yeah, like you don't have to reject everything
Right.
to find yourself. You can sort of take something from your past and repurpose it and make it your own.
yeah, you just have to learn how to style it.
So pretty. Maybe one of my favourite looks. But continue, Veg. I know you've got more thoughts.
Jessie Diol also worked off the dress for her makeup design, aiming for a defined but translucent eye look, a soft smoky eye, and an overall soft and romantic vibe for her engagement phase. Oh, gorgeous.
So pretty.
Get ready, guys. The dress itself is a gorgeous lilac colour. First love, anyone?
Ding, ding, ding.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
And we rarely see this on Pen, so it's thrilling.
And you know, she looks lovely in a lilac.
She does. And I did a little digging and found that this dress is a work of art. So let me bring everyone up to speed so you appreciate it. So it was created by Emily Burling, a costume maker, but it was worked on by many, including John Glazer, Fiona Merkin, several buyers, Deborah Talentire, who shared a lot of detail on Instagram. It's an amazing post we'll link in our show notes, and it's such a cool insight into the costume design process. But to summarise, Deb said that it was a dress that required patience, perfection, and plenty of planning. It had 5 layers to it, and they used bits of fabric that were almost there, but they had to basically do a lot of transformation on to make the patterns line up in the right place. It was a beautiful embroidered tool, but the pattern had lots of sort of blank spaces. You'd have a bit of the embroidery, then a big gap. So they had to sort of make a custom piece of fabric so that she worked with the designers to put together. And it looks like it was an amazing process, and you must look at the pictures to see the dress up close because it's incredible what was achieved. And although we may have caught a glimpse when we saw it on the big screen, I don't think it would have been as clear to people unless you've got a home cinema, in which case, congratulations. Very happy for you. And Deborah called it a masterpiece of costume engineering, and I agree.
It's like it wouldn't have existed in any singular form. They had to like layer and layer and layer to create the effect.
Yeah.
It's one of my favourites.
I love this dress. The embroidery is so beautiful.
Well, Pen, you're looking gorgeous, babe. And enjoy this moment because you're going to get about 2 minutes of nice engagement party before the whole thing gets turned on its head. And ruined yet again. Just another moment for Pen.
Yeah, will they never give her something? Just let her have one thing, please.
Well, Portia breaks the beautiful Polin moment by reminding Colin that in marrying Pen, he's accidentally signed himself up to be Portia's son-to-be. Joy of joys for Colin. To be honest, he's a bit sceptical here, but I think we all know he's going to love being in the Featherington household in season 4. So all's well that eventually ends well.
Yeah.
But Colin is still less than thrilled with Portia after her earlier performance, prompting Portia to offer her regrets for her earlier comments. Instead, she'd rather celebrate their collective future, happily foreshadowing the way Portia and Polin are going to end up as housemates in season 4. Pen looks delighted.
Kind of cute. The script says that Colin checks Pen's reaction to Portia's apology before he responds. It says, Colin looks to Pen, who shrugs. She's trying, apparently, meaning Portia. And then Colin says, well, if that is your intent, then it shall be mine to honor it. Pen totally picks up on this if her gaze at Colin is anything to go by, or she's just remembering the last time they spent time together, but she's looking very much enamored with him.
Our lovely listener Tiff said, fans have clocked the look that Pen gives Colin when he comes striding over to her at the engagement party to claim his bride. Was that a lusty look or just a proud look when he defends her once again against her mother? She is 1,000% checking him out in this moment. You watch where those eyes go, wandering straight on down to, what does Dougie Hawkes call it? The happy place.
Yeah, the exciting place.
The special place. The exciting place. Because now she knows what's under that tight cravat and suit. She's dying to get him back on a chaise. But sadly for Pen, this ain't their engagement party from the book, and so her night is not going to end up in Colin's childhood bedroom, which is a pity, I would say, all round. But speaking of, the Polin engagement party is a significant scene in the book, so it was fun to be able to have a version of it. It is a little bit different, as book readers will know. So the engagement party that we have in the show is like a weird mix of the Macclesfield ball, which is where Portia announces she's Whistledown.
Whoopsie poopsie.
Where Cressida announces she's Whistledown, mixed with the actual engagement ball that they have in the books, which we know ends badly because you guys know Pen says she'd given at Whistledown, kind of. Something publishes. Colin's pissed off. They have an argument, but then they end up sleeping together for the first time. So ups, downs, ins, outs all around. But I do like the inclusion of it here.
Portia decides to find Violet to tell her what a good job she's done with those drab decorations, leaving Pen and Colin standing together. Pen, however, is distracted by the sight of Eloise standing with Cressida. Colin explains that Cressida invited herself, and Colin didn't feel able to say no.
Our listener Jenny said, something that gets to me when I watch this episode in the engagement scene is Cressida being there. I understand it creates a storyline and the drama for next episode. I just don't like the way Colin says Eloise mentioned that Cressida invited herself. And he was like, I didn't know if I could say no or not. Like, Eloise didn't even know she was coming until she just arrived. What do you think?
I feel like Eloise had to know she's going to come.
Do you think Colin's covering for Eloise because he's like trying to piece them back together?
Maybe.
And so he's like, oh, she just invited herself. You know, it's that kind of thing. We're like, oh, yeah, didn't know she was turning up. She just rocked up. What can you do?
Yeah.
But Eloise like fully invited her there.
Still not quite as rude as Cantonese baby announcement at the engagement ball, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
I can kind of see Cressida like assuming she could turn up and Eloise being in a distracted headspace and not really like thinking about it properly and being like, I don't know, she's here.
Oh my gosh, I got so confused. I thought you meant Eloise didn't know Pen was going to be there. Might be.
Oh, no.
Disregard what I was going to say.
Eloise was shocked to find out that Penelope turned up to her own engagement ball.
I wonder if it's like that thing when you're a kid and like if you have like a sibling and they're having a party and you're like, well, I had to invite a friend. You know what I mean? Like one of my friends.
Yeah.
Maybe Eloise is kind of like that.
I do like the idea that Eloise is really shocked that Pen's there because she kind of is. She's like, this bitch.
Still here.
What have I just told you? She's like, I swear. She's what she confronts her about. She's like, doesn't look like he knows, does it?
Yeah.
It reminds me of a teen drama where like two best friends get into a fight, right? They get into a fight right before they go to this big high school party and they're freshmen and they're going to a senior party and this girl's had a crush on this guy who's like a junior forever. And then the friends fight and then one of the friends brings the rival to the party. That's what it reminds me of.
It's actually kind of interesting because if you think... I wonder if Eloise would have been surprised if Penelope didn't show up. She would have just assumed that Penelope had finally told Colin. Colin took it as badly as she did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Interestingly, in the book, Cressida was invited to the engagement ball by, plot twist, Colin. He literally...
What?
He was the one to invite Cressida. He's acting all innocent, but Colin would have something different to say. So in the book, and this is kind of bleak because you see how ardently Eloise was against the notion of Cressida, but we move. So Eloise says, I cannot even imagine why she was invited. There is certainly no love lost between the two of you, and none of us like her. Mm-hmm. And Pen says, Colin insisted upon it. Eloise turned to her with a gaping jaw. Why? And it's partially because they know that she's pretending to be Whistledown, so he's half inviting Cressida to keep an eye on her. But Pen says, your mother didn't want to cause any gossip by cutting her, and Colin also said, she blushed, it was really too sweet. What? Eloise demanded. Penelope couldn't speak without smiling. He said he wanted Cressida to be forced to watch me in my triumph.
Cute.
And although Colin did not invite Cressida himself, he does share the book counterpart's exact sentiments, as he says, "Good, I rather relish her presence so that she can watch you in your triumph."
Oh.
And Chopin smiles and is touched, and that's when Colin extends his arm, and off they go together, as the script says, walking into the party with just the slightest look of dread. That is like my favourite sentence from anything. We could sum up so much. What a slight look of dread. Bleak times are ahead.
As well as being a book moment, this is a moment of victory for Chopin, with some parallels to Vauxhall in 101, as Colin leads her away before Cressida's eyes, essentially. It's very sweet.
But speaking of book moments, look who's watching Polin from up on high.
So the scene description says, Ankle on Violet in conversation with Lady Danbury. They're eyeing Pen and Colin. And then Lady Danbury, of course, says, anyone who questions their match is a fool. All she did to get him to marry her was be herself. This, of course, is an allusion to the book and one of our favorite lines from the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Veg, isn't this your favourite line from the book? Or have I made that up? It's very possible.
Yeah, it is. Well, I mean, I'm sure it's changed over the times, but yes, one of them.
And this is another little bleak moment when you look back at the book, because Lady Danbury looks at Pen and Eloise and goes, "It's rather nice to see two girls who'd rather embrace than stab each other in the back, if you must know."
Oh my goodness.
Oh dear.
Win some, lose some.
And Pen thanks Lady Danbury for coming up to the party, and Lady Danbury says she wouldn't have missed this for the world. She says, "All these fools trying to figure out what you did to get him to marry you when all you really did was be yourself." And Pen's really, really touched, and they had this little moment together. I'm glad that the show included this nod to the book, because I really do love Lady Danbury and Polin in the book.
Mm-hmm.
I think this moment had a bit more resonance, though, in Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, because the Ton were questioning Polin's relationship. Everyone was, like, gawking at them like they were a spectacle, trying to figure out how Pen had got with Colin.
Mm-hmm.
And so Lady Danbury having that line where she's like, "They're all idiots, you were just yourself," feels more powerful.
Yeah.
Whereas in the show, everyone's kind of fine with it, and everyone at the party is certainly happy for them. So it's a little bit more diluted.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it goes to show, like, in the book, everyone was shocked for some reason. And in the show, while they were shocked, everyone knew that Pen and Colin hung around each other.
Yeah. It was like the worst kept secret, isn't it?
It was addressed at the end of season 2. Yeah. While there was some shock there, it was people were like, well, yeah, but they are around each other all of the time. Like, they dance with each other. Like, they don't look just like friends.
Yeah.
No matter what Eloise thinks, they don't.
Yeah. And I think maybe show Colin is a little bit more of an outsider than book Colin was. Because they're both travellers and everything. But I think book Colin is more popular, and he sort of sets everyone at ease. Whereas I think show Colin is more sensitive and more pulled away and uncertain of himself. So maybe they're like those two. Crack on, kids.
Yeah, I would say that, like, he's not as popular, but people definitely have noticed who he talks to. Even when Cressida talks about it to Debling, like, everybody in the Ton knows them as a pair, you know?
Yeah. And I think we've said before that it's something we wish the show had expanded upon in part 2, where we'd have seen a bit more from the Ton reacting to it, and it kind of feels like that pretty much falls into the wayside, which is a bit of a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
But, you know, if it's one less thing to hassle Pen, then so be it.
As Violet declares that Pen is an extraordinary young woman, Marcus joins the ladies on the balcony. During their exchange, Violet explains that she and Marcus ran into each other promenading, which is a reference to the cutscene we mentioned that happens earlier during Fran's promenade. The script also has some amusing scene description about Lady Danbury's feelings about Vicus. It says that Lady Danbury looks from Violet to Lord Anderson and back to Violet. Not sure she likes all the blushing going on. And she says, "I see, well, to the happy couple." And then it says Pen and Colin, that is, not the two of them, meaning Vicus. Off this awkwardness, then we move on to Cressida and Eloise.
Yet, as Cressida is busy trying to get out of an engagement to Lord Greer, Eloise is busy glaring at Pen, her full-time hobby at this point. Colin steps away from Pen to get her a drink. Pen watches after him with a smile on her face, which is quite frankly the last moment of happiness she's going to know in this episode, so suck it up, Veg. You might as well pack it up and head home from here, Pen. It's all downhill from here, babe.
Eloise seizes the opportunity to challenge Penelope, saying, either my brother is the most understanding person ever born, or you have not yet told him. Pen tries to plead with her, saying she's waiting for the right time, but Eloise has had enough. She points out that it does not concern only you. This secret, this lie, with the Queen's reward, it is bound to come out.
Yeah.
And when it does, Colin will know I kept it from him as well.
Which is a bit more of Elle's motivation as well, isn't it? She's now panicking that, like, when he finds out,
she doesn't want to deceive him.
yeah, and she doesn't want him to be mad at her. So it's this, like, really complicated relationship she has with the truth, which then makes her, like, flip so much next episode, which we'll get to when she's like, I'll just never tell him, actually.
Yeah.
And our listener, Erin, had a question about this. She said, Elle makes me so mad at the engagement ball. If her goal is to save Colin from hurt and embarrassment, then this doesn't seem like the best time to force Pen to confess.
Yeah.
I know the point is for the writers to make the most drama possible, but sometimes I feel they lose characters in the process. I guess my question is, what do you think is Eloise's motivation for not just hurting Pen, but Colin at their engagement party? It's definitely one of those Elle moments where she's not thought it through.
Yeah.
I think that too. And also, I feel like she's putting the responsibility onto Pen because she should.
Yeah, 100%.
It is Pen's responsibility to say this. I also think that once Pen does that, Eloise realizes that her conscience will also be clear. Like, it'll be out there so she doesn't actually have to do anything. She doesn't have to tell Colin. I think part of the reason she was pressuring Pen so much is because Eloise didn't want to tell Colin, didn't want to be the one that had to tell him. She wanted Pen to do it on her own. Because then Eloise also knows that Colin would be upset with her and she'd be the bad guy and whatever. And also, he might not believe her when she tells him at first, too. And so that's a whole other thing. I think obviously it's Eloise not completely thinking through, which isn't out of character for her. She does that quite often.
Definitely. Yeah.
And I also think it's Eloise not really wanting to take the full responsibility because she shouldn't.
Yeah.
But also she knows that once Colin figures it out, that he will go to her and be like, oh, did you know this the whole time? You know, is this why you guys weren't friends anymore?
But she's definitely not thinking about the optics. Like, this is not the place to do.
No.
Yeah, like, this is not the moment. But then it's the kind of thing where with Pen, because she's so good at obfuscating the truth and hiding and dancing and twisting, that it is kind of like, you have to be forced in this moment when I've got my eyes on you to do it. You have to sort of expose her in that very vivid way because she's had an opportunity. And it is very dramatic of Eloise to be like, by midnight. Yeah. But it's also like, Eloise knows that there's a time limit from Colin's side as well. She's like, he's going to find out. So the clock is already ticking. You're just not hearing it. So here is me making you listen to the clock that is ticking.
Ah, good point. Yeah.
And here's an actual deadline because it's going to happen to you one way or another, which it does.
Right.
And it is worse that he finds out the way he finds out. So it is a very dramatic moment, but she's at the end of her patience with Pen, I think. And so it's like, this is dragging me down as well, and it's dragging him down. And the fact is they've got the bounty now, so the stakes are higher and higher. So she's sort of forcing that deadline. But I do know what you mean. It's like, would this have been the best moment for her to really say it, which we'll return to at the end of the episode. But Eloise, sensing that Pen is not making any real effort to tell the truth, decides to set the ultimatum, forcing Pen's hand once and for all, saying, if it proves too difficult for you to reveal the truth, I will be merciful and reveal it to him myself. You have until midnight.
Colin returns to a now visibly shaken Pen with a drink in hand. Funnily, after Colin asks if Pen is all right, we not only hear the first ticking clock noises of the episode, but the captions provide a return of one of Obbs's personal favorites, breathing shakily. Last seen during the 202 You Do Not Count scene, a perfect depiction of Pen's inner turmoil and stress in this scene.
You know things are bad if the girl's breathing shakily. At least she can breathe at this point, though, you know.
She can still breathe. She can still breathe. A little shaky, but she's breathing.
How does that sound?
But here, Colin instantly picks up that something is amiss and starts to pay more close attention to Pen as the party progresses.
We dramatically cut across the clock on the mantelpiece, which reveals it's only 6 minutes past 8, so less than 4 hours to go, Pen, which is a torturously long amount of time. I feel like she should have set it at 10 o'clock to, you know, not have this hanging over her. But in some ways, the rest of the episode kind of feels like it's almost running in real time as the pressure from the clock increasingly weighs upon Pen. But in actuality, there's a lot of time jumps that are slightly questionable. I mean, it's Bridgerton though. When isn't it?
Yeah.
You do feel that pressure building really well, the way it's created and directed. Claudia Jessie told the Bridgerton podcast how fun it was as an actor to be able to deliver an ultimatum in such a dramatic way with a deadline.
Oh, God.
It was the kind of thing she completely relished in. She was like, everyone wants to stand there and say to someone, you have until midnight. So she was loving it. But she also reflected on the moment between the characters and the difficult position Eloise had forced her best friend into. She said, I guess it is Penelope's responsibility, which is exactly what you were saying, Beans.
Yeah.
It is not Eloise's responsibility. She's heartbroken. I like the mix of it all. Firstly, from a TV perspective, there's nothing more fun than the audience knowing something that none of the characters know. That's always the best place to be. It's always the most fun. Then next to that, the only other thing that's fun, an interesting word, we were suffering, is being alongside one character that knows. Everyone knows, Eloise knows, so there's a meaning, tension of when is it going to be revealed. But I think Eloise is doing the right thing of being like, Colin needs to know, he's going to find out at some point.
It's true.
Yeah.
There is a lot of drama going on at this engagement party, but Tilly initially added a bit of flair to the proceedings with a dramatic entrance. Originally, there was a moment where Tilly made a grand Cinderella-style debut. While all of this doubles down on the idea that Ben had real feelings for Tilly, I think they wisely cut this because it would have cheapened the Cinderella storyline for season 4 and Ben's odd reaction to the real love of his life. But the scene description reads, the party rages on as the
the party... It's like the softest party ever.
I know.
The party rages on. As the ton mingles enjoying the music and past hors d'oeuvres, a hush comes over the crowd. Ben follows the eyes, reveal Tilly arriving in a gown with a heart-stopping plunge. Benedict brightens in awe that Tilly has made an appearance. He goes to her. At that point, Ben greeted Tilly, who explained that she had accepted his invitation, which we alluded to during that cutscene earlier, because she needed a place to show off her dress.
So this is directly related to that scene that you guys reenacted so vividly and powerfully earlier.
Yeah.
How weird would this have been had they kept it in? Where like, because Penn doesn't make a dramatic entrance or anything like that.
Yeah. She just comes in.
Imagine if they'd been like, just stand aside, Penn. And then we'd have had this like heart-stopping moment of Tilly making like a Hilary Duff style appearance.
Yeah. It just feels...
Yeah.
I'm going to be annoying, but it just feels like they were taking so many moments away from Penelope and Colin.
Yeah.
This would have just taken away from that focus. And I know the reason why they were going to do that, right? They were going to do it because it was their hint that Ben was going to be next season. Mm-hmm. Because all season long, and we've talked about it multiple times, I feel bad, but like...
I think we say it every time. We've talked about this a bunch, but we feel the same way.
Yeah. But there's no real, like... In season 2, we knew it was going to be Penelope and Colin because there was so much of them. And in this season, it just felt like it could have been a toss-up between Eloise and Ben, even though we knew it was likely to be Ben. So I feel like there was no real effort to be like, oh, Ben's the next one. Like, even at the end of the season, which we'll talk about when it comes, I think that Ben's answer could have just been nothing, you know? Like, it was just like, it's whatever.
I feel like this scene was hinting that Benedict was looking for love and perhaps in love with Tilly, or, you know, in his own way. Obviously not the real love of his life, but I just feel like that Cinderella-style entrance, knowing that the Benefice story is inspired by Cinderella, it's kind of misguided.
Can you imagine?
For sure. And it doesn't make sense for this. Like, why would they have someone come and like show up a fucking engagement and stuff like that? It takes away from Penelope and Colin, and it just feels not suited.
Yeah.
If there's one thing that shouldn't happen at an engagement party, it's someone else coming in,
announcing a baby, coming uninvited.
Someone showing up uninvited, someone making a big announcement about their personal lives, taking the spotlight. It just doesn't seem feasible.
Maybe this is supposed to be the engagement party from hell or whatever.
Yeah.
But I also was thinking, like, the Bridgertons, the only grand staircase they have is the one, like, inside their home. So she would have to, like, kind of sneak in and come down their own stairs or something.
Right? Like, what the hell would they be doing? Like, they would just literally be... Okay, guys, let's go to the stairs.
Yeah, Ben's like, oh my God, you're here. And she's like, I just went to pee.
Yeah, I've been here for a while.
Yeah, she walks up the stairs.
Maybe she goes and, like, slits her dress to make a deeper V to give it that heart-stopping punch.
Yeah, I'm glad they cut it, but it's just such a 180 that they did with Benedict. It's really funny.
It's kind of weird, yeah.
And what's hilarious is that, like, this massive setup that there is that's been cut out where, like, will she turn up? Won't she turn up? Oh my God, she's here in her heart-stopping dress.
Yeah.
She's just there, and Kate's like, oh, nice to meet you. Great, okay, see you later.
Yeah.
Right.
And Teddy's been like, I couldn't turn up to a family event.
Yeah.
That's crossing barriers. And Kate's like, oh, great, yeah, cool, nice, hi.
I think I like her, yeah.
Okay, so Tilly is in the house. We can tick her off the list. The party is fully underway now, and a whole bunch of townspeople and family friends are filling up the Bridgerton entrance hall. If you squint a lot, you can just about see Pen and Colin chatting together in the middle. But our focus now is on the other couple of the season, our dearly doomed Fron. Welcome back to What a Fron, a Fron podcast brought to you by 4 Frons who wouldn't be Frons without Fron. This scene is unbearable to me. I can't watch it.
Fran decides to present John to Antony with Vi, Lady D, and Marcus also in attendance.
If you actually look carefully, there is someone else listening in. We'll get back to him later.
John's earnest greeting is met with a fun jest made by Antony, so it looks like all is going well. However, things take a depressing turn when Fran encourages John to tell a story about his boots. Sadly, he's only able to say, ah yes, the boots. Well, there was mud, and a great deal of mud on them, before being unable to continue.
I hate this so much. There's something in this, it's like psychologically damages my soul. When you see like a really awkward, earnest scene completely fall apart, Fran is looking at him so lovingly and hopefully thinking he's going to tell this really funny story. Mm-hmm. And then he starts to flounder, and then the others turn to awkward pity, which is the worst.
The smiles, yeah.
It's also just kind of like, you should know your partner. If they're like not very good at public speaking, don't force them to like try to tell a joke.
Good point. The scene description here is also kind of sad because it says that Fran worries that her family will never quite get him as she leads him away after his disastrous introduction and first attempt at the Muddy Boots story.
Oh my God.
And then Violet offers a sympathy laugh. Antony and Lady Danbury share a look off Fran, flashing John a comforting smile.
Don't worry, Fran. He won't be around long enough to be misunderstood for long.
No.
I wouldn't even bother getting to know him, guys. It's As Fran heads off, Vi shares her worries with Lady D that Fran needs someone to bring her out of her shell, and points out that the Queen is opposed to the match, which apparently is still going on. I've lost track with how the Queen feels about... And then she doesn't even care in the end, does she? Anyway, moving on.
There was also a cut line of dialogue here from Antony, who initially told Violet that he would speak with Fran, setting up another cutscene we will get to later. And also, before he heads off, Violet basically tries to convince Antony to tell her that she was right to mock him last season, and he says he'll speak to Fran basically to avoid admitting that she was right. This scene description alludes to this in a cute way, saying Antony will do anything to not have to admit that Violet was right. Violet is pleased until she spots Lady Featherington waving at her. Violet then pastes on a smile, according to the script, and awkwardly greets Portia.
Violet's been doing her best to avoid Portia all night, but you can never outrun your past or your future, evidently. After all, these two are destined to be family now. I do want to point out that Violet suddenly says that she's the hostess. Excuse me?
That's true.
How fucking rude.
It's a good point.
I thought this was Kate's party, but...
Yeah, she forgot. Initially, they had a much longer and very interesting conversation where Portia alluded to the scandalous way that Polin's engagement happened by saying, I'm certain neither of us would want anyone getting wind of the origin of this match, with both of them out rather late the night of their betrothal. As an aside, Portia uses the word betrothal constantly at this party instead of engagement, in case anyone questions that when you're listening. But at this point, Violet would have narrowed her eyes at Portia, wondering where she was going with this. Portia continued by saying, I simply mean to say, do you not think we should both endeavor to ensure the marriage takes place, to ensure the connection between my family and yours for both of our sakes? You can really sense Portia's desperation here to ensure that this engagement doesn't fall through like the last Bridgerton-Featherington union. The scene description explains this, saying that it's not a threat exactly, just light desperation to make the match stick. And then Violet responded in the most heartwarming manner. Meeting Portia's strategy with gentleness, Violet declares, Lady Featherington, there is no my family and yours anymore. The wedding will take place because my son loves your daughter. We will be one family who take care of one another. At this point, Violet puts her hand on Portia's arm. Portia is startled by this, nearly at a loss for words, moved by this kindness. And hilariously, the scene description notes that Violet's smile is only a touch pasted on now. I'm kind of sad this was cut because it was a really sweet moment between the two matriarchs that just further emphasizes how different they are. And Portia is so affected by the love and support she feels as an extension of the Bridgerton family in this way that's just really sweet.
It's so funny to me that, like, you have a really beautiful, moving scene of connection
between Portia and Violet.
Gone.
Chop.
That would have been it's so sweet to have actually had in the show.
Yeah.
And I think it explains so much about how, like, Portia's always been a questionable character who's, like, drenched in shades of grey because she's always been surviving.
Mm-hmm.
And this turnaround that she has with Penelope is partially because, like, it's the first time she doesn't have to be in overt survival mode when she actually sees that Colin loves her and is going to look after Pen.
Yeah.
I think this is the last of that falling away where she's still kind of in that last bits of survival mode where she's like, okay, I need to make sure this actually goes through and doesn't fall apart.
Yeah.
Violet's like, no, we're family.
Yeah.
There's no more scheming.
There's no more scheming. Please, Portia.
I can see why she's worried because it didn't really work out last time, did it?
Anyway.
It's like her settling into it finally, but cut.
Yeah.
Gone. Lost. Hello. If our audio sounds a little bit different to the last clip, we're recording on a different day. This episode has taken us about 5,000 recording episodes. Also, Veg and I are dying. So if you hear the sound of a fan of some kind, we're trying to survive the London heat. Anyway, sorry listeners, for you it's the middle of the episode. Let's carry on.
Strap in, guys.
It's now time for someone to make yet another love confession.
The script says that we find Colin clanging his glass to capture the room's attention, including Penelope, who's currently chatting with Fran and John. As everyone gathers around, we spot Cressida off in a corner alone. As Cressida wonders when she became the wallflower, Colin begins.
Sorry, like, I'm just going to cut in here because I have a few points to make before we head into Colin's speech. And this is probably why our episodes are so fucking long. But firstly, I wish they'd kept in a moment of actually seeing Pen talking with Fran. I think that's really sweet.
I've always wished for more Fran and Penelope scenes.
Yeah, because the way it's cut, you can see that Pen is standing next to Fran when Colin begins his speech, but you don't see them actually interacting. And like you say, it would have been such a full circle callback to the moment they had at the Four Seasons ball in 301.
Yeah.
Because back then they were really sweetly encouraging one another on, and now they're back here together, but they've both found their people and their matches, and they're about to become sisters. So it would have been a really sweet reminder of how integrated with the family Penelope already is.
Yeah.
Elle notwithstanding, but we're working on it. Also, Cressida. I mean, I'm sorry that you're feeling like a wallflower, but can she honestly be that surprised? Imagine that you'd like crashed a party.
Yes.
You're evidently not welcome at.
You're not invited to, and you've bullied the bride-to-be. Yeah.
And then you're at the back like, I can't believe I don't feel comfortable here. It's like, take a hint, babe. But back to Colin, who has a tiny little spoon in his hand that he's surprisingly not using to eat dessert before he can speak. I just want to burst the romance of this moment because Colin with the spoon reminds me the last time we saw Colin with a spoon making a big speech when he announced his engagement to Marina way back in 106. He does like a little, like he give me a little dink dink.
I have happy news to impart once more.
Once more. Just pretend it didn't happen beforehand. But to make up for bringing that episode and that bleak moment to everyone's mind, I will just point out the adorable way that Pen gazes up at Colin as he prepares to make his little speech, and the way he looks down so happily at her as he steps into the middle of the room. So I guess we're now at the loudly part of the assuredly, fervently, loudly loved declarations, Lek.
Yes.
If you're keeping score, which Lecky is.
One of my favorite parts of the speech is how Colin hands the spoon to Eloise after he's done, and how Colin that is of him. Eloise's expression is also hilarious.
Yeah, it's like such a brotherly, sisterly moment to have between them.
Yeah.
But then it is also a very clever way to set Eloise's speech up because she uses the little spoon to steal the speech for herself. But the setup is so fully in character for them both. Reminder, Lecky, add a bee with a spoon, perhaps, on the cover.
A bee with a spoon. Great.
Thank you. Hi, post-production, Lecky. Godspeed. But pray silence for the groom. Veg, take it away.
Oh, I didn't know I'd be voice acting today. Okay.
Oh my god, no, stop!
Oh,
don't speak.
wait.
Don't speak now. There's a Bean. Sorry, again, if you're listening, I know that Bean was just with us. She just temporarily wasn't with us, but she's back with us now.
A Bean.
But back to Colin and his declaration of love.
But back to the romantic shit.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fine that I interrupted it. No man deserves to speak ever.
Beans is going through a difficult time. That was not targeted to Colin. But Veg, channel your deepest book Colin energy.
What's my book Colin voice?
It's sort of like
Penelope. Okay, I just needed to say Penelope again.
I love that like you're getting as a Penelope.
Penelope. Good evening, everyone. If you will allow me a few words. Most people, when they fall off a horse, are counselled to get back on it again. I say stay down, for in the mud you may happen to be blessed with your future bride. Does he say
Yes, he says this. Yeah.
Veg hasn't watched the episode in a while.
It just makes me laugh because it reminds me of the lie down. So he says lie down. Now he's saying stay down. I just think he likes getting down, basically.
But anyway.
It was my atrocious riding that led me to meet Miss Featherington. Pen, I am so grateful to be here with her tonight. I look forward to our life together, to knowing each other fully. Wink. And to never taking a single day with you for granted.
Stunning performance. Thank you, Veg.
Thank you.
And another beautiful love confession from Colin. And this time in public, out loud. Long gone are those days when Pen feared he was embarrassed by her. How far we've come in like 2 weeks or whatever it is. But beautiful. And as we know, Book Colin also has a penchant for making public speeches about Penelope, albeit in a slightly different context. Romancing Mr. Bridgerton fans, you may remember that Colin was the one to reveal Penelope's true identity at the end of the book, along with a handy little speech talking about how proud he was of her. The show switches this up a bit so that Penelope reveals her own identity in 308 through her own speech. But I do like the way the show pays tribute to Colin's fondness for a speech by including one here at their engagement party. He's so proud to be marrying her. So let's dig into what he said a little bit more, shall we? So to summarise, he retells the story of their first meeting, harkening back to the same story that Colin told to Pen in 302, very similar to their book Meet Cute. Mm-hmm. I think it's really sweet that he happily harkens back to that first meeting here. And I love that even though Colin has only recently realised his feelings for Penelope, he still connects it all back to their first meeting in childhood. Mm. It's like he really does now understand how far back his feelings for Penelope have gone and have been a part of his life. Still wish that I'd seen that Meet Cute with my own eyeballs. Thank you.
Yeah, and it would have hit so much harder.
It would have done, because we'd have been like, we were there. Yeah, it was great, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. And people love to be like, show, don't tell in TV.
Mm-hmm. Show. Mm-hmm. Where is it?
Especially in television shows, it's so hard to do oh, this happened. Because, I don't know.
You're saying that revealing information in dialogue can often sound expository because it's like, hey, remember when I fell off a horse and you were there and that was the first time we met and it was really cute. Like, they managed to pull it off in 302 by kind of alluding to that and like bringing it back here.
Right.
But oftentimes it sounds expository.
Yeah.
It's just odd that they didn't do it.
But the thing is, like, just retelling the story, it's like factually this is what happened. But like the point of the story is supposed to be like what happened in that physical moment between you two.
Right.
That set you on these paths. Like, what reaction did Penelope have where she fell in love as a tiny child?
Yes.
And then what reaction did Colin have as a child that set them on the trajectory?
Because that's the thing, right? If you tell us that's what happened, we need to like see the spark there between the two of them. And it's like, we don't get that at all just because they're retelling it. Sure, it was a good moment between them and it was cute and it was bantery, whatever. Also, though, I think because Penelope has so much left unsaid with her feelings towards Colin, that would give us like a really good insight.
I think it would be really cute to see the moment that she fell in love with him.
Yeah.
But in general, I just mourn any flashback at all because I feel like seeing a glimpse of what their dynamic was as children, even if it wasn't that first meeting, would have conveyed so much about the history of connection between them.
Yeah. I don't even mourn it. I'm salty as hell because this is the perfect couple for a flashback.
Yes.
Like, the absolute perfect couple for one.
Yeah.
And only the people who've read the book and remember it well and have like an emotional connection, they're the only cohort of people who this is really meaningful to.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, I don't think people who don't know the books would have really picked up the story. They probably wouldn't have paid particular attention to it. Like, they would have been like, oh, I guess they knew each other as kids. But like, only because we know the book are we even giving it like this much time, I feel.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good point.
And I feel like because we're so heavily invested in their story that we've microscopically analysed it at every turn.
What?
But I know that a lot of casual viewers, I don't know if you're aware of this, guys.
Excuse
But I know a lot of casual viewers were like, to them, they'd seen Pen and Colin having these moments in the previous seasons, but it was like, oh, we were friends since childhood and we were best friends since childhood, and apparently everyone else knew it. And it's like, I could use some visual aids to see that was true. Sorry to go on a little flashback rant in 305, but the point still stands. I understand it would have been difficult to portray, but surely a kid could have been thrown off of a horse in some capacity.
Just do it.
I think it's just out of everything, that's the one thing that I really am upset that wasn't included in season 3.
Because that's the emotional core, right?
Yeah.
Right.
To pull back to that rooting moment.
Yeah.
And I also feel like that's one thing that we were pretty sure we were getting because we've had flashbacks for the other leads.
Right.
So
if I do a flashback for Ben, I won't be bitter, but I will be bitter about it.
Beans, we were just talking about, I don't know if you've seen the video from the season 4 wrapping thingamajig.
I think I did. I just don't remember.
We're debating whether he has grey in his hair at the end.
He's like a little highlight in a curl right here. And it's either a highlight or gray hair. And we're like, either he went stress gray, there's a time jump, or they gave him a highlight.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did a time jump because the timelines in Bridgerton are so bizarre.
Yeah.
Sorry, where were we?
To dig back into the microscopic details. In the speech, Colin says, I'm so grateful to be with her tonight. And there's a really sweet moment where Pen smiles to herself as she listens to him, but the moment is slightly soured when Elle immediately turns to glare at her. Unfortunately, I think Colin is so busy talking to the room, however, that he doesn't quite catch Pen's reaction here, but he will sadly catch onto another of her reactions in just a moment.
And when he says, I look forward to our life together, to knowing each other fully, it's such an important reminder of what this means for Colin and how much of their relationship and the certainty of their relationship is grounded in them already fully knowing each other. He feels really safe in the fact that they've seen each other as they truly are. They've known each other their whole lives. Yeah. This brings so much security and emotional stability for him. And of course, as we know, this is more painful setup for why the Lady Whistledown revelation causes so much devastation for him, because it's not just a betrayal in the present, it sort of destabilizes everything that he thinks he knows about their relationship, about her, and then the way that she sees him.
Yeah.
If this part of her isn't true, then maybe the way she sees him isn't true either. Slightly depressing, but in happy news, Colin also raises his glass to never taking a single day with you for granted. What a callback to 207, Lecky, your favourite scene, where a sweet oblivious Colin once told Pen, our relationship has taken place so naturally over the years, one could take it for granted. Not anymore.
Oh, well. Just remember that, Colin, after the Lady Whistledown reveal.
Yeah.
Some rough times ahead.
And it also ties into the vow he makes to Pen in 306 during the church scene when he says, I will spend a lifetime begging for your forgiveness for not seeing you sooner.
Oh. It's also very sweet how he addresses her as Pen mid-speech because she's always been Pen to him. It's their shared familiarity and their shared history that makes him feel so at home in this new stage of their story.
And at the end of Colin's speech, he raises a toast and the guests happily raise their own glasses and clap along. But just as Colin is smiling at everyone, he catches sight of Penelope.
And the scene description for this scene reads, and now we see Pen feeling the pressure of Colin's words, of the eyes upon her, of the lie she's keeping, as even Colin can't help but notice the awkwardness. And you can really sense the weight hitting Pen here, especially Colin's toast to knowing each other fully. That is not what Pen wants to hear in this moment, especially in light of Eloise's deadline. Unfortunately, this is the moment that Colin clocks that Pen is upset. We already know that he is tuning in closely to Penelope's reactions. He can already sense that something isn't quite right.
And I think what makes this moment so much worse is that Colin has just said that he was looking forward to their life together.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone will be worried if you've just made this a huge declaration about how much you can't wait to be together forever. And your fiancé just looks incredibly uncomfortable the whole time because he immediately links it, as we see throughout the rest of the episode, especially that line about marriage at the end when sort of the pressure is ramping up. He keeps saying these things, catching Pen's reaction. She's reacting out of pain, of fear of losing it. And he interprets that as, oh my God, she doesn't want this.
She doesn't want to marry him. Yeah. Oh. And it's all building into this idea in Colin's head, his deepest fear that Penelope might not actually want this, that maybe he got carried away and presumed too much. If we think back to what's happened so far, she didn't overtly say yes to his proposal, as we've discussed earlier. She didn't return his affirmation of love. They have had sex, but we know that what matters to Colin is also the emotional intimacy, not just the physical. And at this point, I'd just like to revisit the mirror scene for a second, because there was another cut line of dialogue in the mirror scene that I think is really relevant here. So when Colin first brought Pen into their new home, originally in the script, Penelope would have told him, no, the house is perfect, you are perfect. It seems like they cut this line of dialogue so that Colin is still left without any verbal affirmation from Penelope that there isn't something wrong with him. Hilariously though, in the final edit, they did keep in the line where she says that their sex was perfect, but they took out the line where she said that Colin was perfect. And this allows his insecurity and fears to continue growing throughout the rest of the episode and into the next episode.
Yeah.
And I know there's been some debate about the different cuts and things, but I think this this is an example of some really clever editing, which enhances Colin's arc for part 2.
We've already mentioned it a lot about 305, but this episode is really love confession after love confession for Colin. And I think if you watch this episode directly after 304, you really see how freeing it has been for Colin to no longer be forcing himself to act cavalier about love. Part 2 really sees Colin allowing himself his vulnerability and sensitivity. And I think that can be joyous in moments like this speech, where he's so liberated by his ability to say how he truly feels and to embrace love. He's proudly pouring his heart out in front of everyone. But then it can also be really painful for him, like when he feels betrayed by Penelope. But I suppose this is Colin at last. He's no longer pretending, no longer forcing himself to act against his true nature. And perhaps it is this raw vulnerability that he's sort of uncovered in 304 that now makes his insecurities feel even more exposed when Penelope is not verbally returning his affections, but also seems so uncomfortable around them. But you know what? We've got no time to dwell because just an incredible quick tonal shift there. Sorry, Colin. We'll get back to you on that one. We've no time to dwell because it seems that someone else has something to say. What a surprise.
So the scene description says, Eloise jumps in, ting ting, raising her glass.
Make your own tings at home. What has she got to say for herself? Beans, do you want to be a bit of an L?
Oh, okay. Congratulations to you both. Here is to truly knowing each other completely before the clock runs out. The clock of life, of course, ticks for us all. To your good luck.
Health.
Health.
Oh, good health. To your good health.
Beans, some feedback about that. Hilariously, that was very, very brummy of you.
Oh,
Yeah, it was quite brummy.
Which Claudia Jessie is a brummy. So I know that was not where you were aiming for.
Not intended.
But actually,
Perfect.
I think you've done her proud.
amazing.
And as ever, Eloise Bridgerton, ladies and gentlemen, the master of subtlety, very smoothly played, as she, of course, reminds Pen of the ticking of the clock, the deadline she's placed on her head. But if we're talking about subtlety, then keep an eye on Anthony in this scene, who fully has his hand splayed out on Kate's stomach throughout the entire thing.
Oh, very cute.
But we cut back to the ticking clock, which is now 9:30 p.m. if you're keeping track, which we are, seeing as though it's the entire point of the episode.
Long party.
It is a long party. Do you know what? They play the fucking game of charades. Is it charades or charades? Charades.
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 I think for you it's charades, and then maybe for us it's charades.
Tracks.
Okay, listeners.
Pick your poison.
We're going to settle on charades.
Sure.
I genuinely could not take myself seriously saying charades. I don't.
Oh my gosh. As a pod, are we settling on charades?
Yes.
Okay, if you don't like that, sorry, we're transatlantic, we're doing our best. Where are we?
We were talking about how long the engagement party is, and you were going to make a comment about the
We're
charades.
talking about how long this fucking episode is going to be. It's an immersive experience. The charades go on all fucking night.
Yeah.
Anyway, the speeches have ended up as a bit of a free-for-all as Portia now takes up the spoon. Hang on. There we go. To make her own speech, raising a toast to her lovely daughter and the match of the season and the Featherington Bridgerton family.
Hilariously, when Portia then toasted the Bridgerton Featherington family, the scene description says that she raises her glass at Violet, and Violet averts her eyes into her own glass.
On that glass all you like, Vi. You've got an entire lifetime ahead of you of being related to Portia. You're going to need something a lot stronger to make it through.
Now we properly meet Obbs's favorite new character of the season, Lord Holly, the older gentleman that pops up here and there in part 2. The scene description explains this is Lord Holly, an old family friend, and a kind of precocious one at that, in my opinion, as he also originally made a toast of his own. Or he attempted to. So basically, Lord Holly says,
I should like to say a few words.
and Lady Danbury swiftly intervenes by nudging Kate, who announces that it's time for everyone to move into the drawing room. You can actually see a snippet of this in the final edit as Kate is basically holding onto Lord Holly's arm. The scene description at this point reads, "Thank God," in all caps, which just makes me wonder what kind of hilariously bad speech he would have delivered.
I have no memory of this man.
Oh my God. Oh my God. This old man is just the best character in the world. If you basically do a rewatch just watching him. So, okay, I said that on the 14th of June, 2024, I messaged Lecky, clearly very important to bring up. I said, I would like you to know that one of my favourite extras is now the old man who was really shocked by Cressida and then rushes to Pen's aid in episode 5.
Aww.
So I have been a fan of Lord Holly. Yeah. He has the best reactions.
He pops up quite often after this point.
He does. And he is silenced cruelly by Lady Danbury and Kate. So I will never rest easy.
Aww.
But Veg, did you ever watch The Vicar of Dibley?
Yeah.
So I feel like Lord Holly would have done like a Frank Pickles sort sort of speech where he would have just gone on and on and on and on. And I'm saying, give the man some screen time.
Editor's note, actually the script implies that Lord Hawley is cut off because he's a slow speaker. The scene description says, as Tilly stifles a laugh, Lord Hawley tinks his glass and slowly intones, which kind of hints that he maybe speaks at a very slow, sluggish pace.
Anyway, we will keep mentioning him. So do your own rewatch, watch out for this guy. And then I think he appears next episode as well, actually.
He does, yeah.
But I am devastated and I can't find where we are in the script.
You're at, I am devastated that this was cut.
Let the man speak, for fuck's sake. Why is every joy wrenched from the life before it can even be known?
And that's on a deeper spiritual level, Beans, isn't it? But anyway, carry on, Fleck.
But to bring the mood back down again, the script again notes that Colin is continuing to track Pen's lack of ease as he leads her out of the room.
I feel so bad for him in this scene because imagine you've just like stood there in front of everyone that you know, completely poured your heart out, you're talking about the life you're going to share, and then suddenly
She averts her eyes
constantly, looks nauseous at the thought of being with you.
Yeah.
I just think Luke does a really good job of showing that growing panic that he doesn't sort of put onto her straight away. He just sort of follows it and tries to sort of brush it off, but it keeps being noticed for him. And he's going to watch her for the rest of the night, picking up on every tiny movement she makes.
You can see him watching her closely during the Charades game. Like, he's paying attention.
Yeah, and his head totally isn't into it. And I especially like the moment just now after the speech where everyone starts to move into the drawing room and Pen is sort of lost in her own thoughts. And Colin just stands there for just a moment and he looks really quietly gutted. But then he sort of gathers himself and then goes to offer his arm to Pen. And so the party heads into the Bridgerton drawing room. I don't know how they're all going to fit. And not everyone takes part in the game, so I don't know what they're doing.
They're eating those delicious butterfly macarons or whatever in the other room.
The macarons, which we've accidentally done a posthumous advert for. I remember we heard about this before the show came out, as the showrunner Jess Brownell highlighted it as one of her favourite family moments from the season. And you know that we love a good Bridgerton family scene, so...
Yeah.
Of course, they're actually playing the Regency version of Charades. Sorry, I'm going to say Charades. I will be a conscious dissenter.
Okay.
Of course, they're actually playing the Regency version of Charades, which is pretty different to the game that we know these days. So during the Regency, the game used literary riddles to form individual syllables of a word. So there's no, like, miming a film. Jane Austen included charades. Oh, no, I've changed. Jane Austen included charades in her own writing, including Emma, which we know Eloise has been reading.
These are hard as well. I was going to include some in this episode for us to do, and I couldn't get any of them, not how my brain works. So
We'll do a special for Patreon or something.
Yeah.
Cute.
But speaking of this whole set piece that we have in this scene, Jess Brownell told the LA Times, episode 5 and 6 are always the hardest episodes to write in every season. That tends to be when the main drama has come to a peak at the midpoint of the season, and then you're waiting for the bigger stuff that is going to happen at the end of the season. Thankfully, the Charades party with the ticking clock and Cressida deciding to come out as the whistle down provided us nice new obstacles in the back half. And I do like that this is sort of a focus set piece that everyone else is dancing around for the rest of the episode.
There is also a little cut Vicus and Cantony moment before we get into the Charades game, with Violet asking Marcus to escort her to her defeat at the hands of her competitive children, which is kind of cute. Antony notices this interaction and isn't pleased, but Kate cuts the tension by distracting Antony with the riddles book, asking whether he wants to explain the rules, otherwise she will. He quickly snatches the riddles book from her.
So what is he not pleased at?
Oh, Vicus.
I suppose he's been out of town, hasn't he? He's like, where the fuck has this come from?
And Antony, of course, he's like immediately protective. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's just, like, I've witnessed, like, family members be upset about my grandma getting with somebody after my grandpa died. It, like, breaks your bubble of, oh, my parents were in love with each other, and she's never going to see anybody else. And the thing is...
It's an adjustment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think... as a kid, when you see your parent moving on from maybe your other parent who's passed away, you're like, oh my gosh, did they never love them or do they forget about them? And I don't think that's ever the case. There's always going to be love there. It's just, we're humans. We love love.
And it's interesting because I feel like we went on that same journey too as like fans, because we always were like, no, Violet shouldn't get with anyone else because it sort of
diminishes the love story.
Yeah, exactly. Violet Edmonds' love story is the linchpin that holds the whole premise together.
You're right. Yeah.
And it's like, if she finds a new love, then does that clash with the idea?
No.
Ultimately, I feel like as a human, she deserves to have love again.
Yeah, I feel like we were kind of torn about this idea initially, or at least I was, because the Violet and Edmund love story is, like you said, such a foundation for the show and for the Bridgertons. But thematically, when you're thinking about the later seasons with Fran perhaps being a widow and stuff like that, I feel like it's actually really clever to work in this second chance love story before Fran finds her second love.
And also, I think in general, you're not disrespecting your love by falling in love with someone after they pass away. You can still honor it and love them and know that that love was different, and this love with this other person is going to be different as well, because every relationship has different dynamics. And we, as people, we flock to companionship and love and having people in our lives. And so for me, I think it's almost beautiful too, because when we get to the end of the season, Marcus Anderson almost says, like, you know, you had a lot of love and I need to learn how to feel that love as well.
And he's a widow too.
Right. It still honors what she had and doesn't take away from that. And I think it's hard when you see that as a kid, because you're like, well, did you never love my father? No, I did love him and I'll always love him. And I'm lonely.
Yeah.
And I want to feel those affections again. And I want someone to be in my life.
From Queen Charlotte, we know that she wants to have a physical connection with someone again.
It's downplaying it significantly, but yes.
I was thinking more tasteful way.
That too, yeah.
I hope he is in future seasons, because I think there's a lot of potential, like you say, the idea of Edmund still being there, guiding for Fran when she goes through her grief.
Yeah, that was such a good point.
But then also the comedic potential as well, as the kids sort of get used to it. But Anthony's only just found out, so fair play.
But we also touched on it before, that he's the perfect partner for her, and that he's also an empty nester who also really loves his kids, from what we've seen.
If she's going to have love interest, let it be like a really decent guy. And then she'd be the sister-in-law to Lady D. And that's cute, isn't it? Lecky, we got really tangled up with Vicus there, but as you were saying, there was also a cut little moment where Kate was sort of playfully like nudging him and being like, if you don't start the game, I'll start the game. Why did they cut that out?
I know.
I love a competitive moment.
It's such a perfect encapsulation of their dynamic and a great little peek into how that bickering has translated into their married life. So it's kind of a shame that we didn't get to see more of that. But anyway, the scene resumes as you see in the show, with Antony interestingly pointing out that the game will continue until the intellectual genius of the group reveals him or herself, cleverly setting up the Lady Whistledown reveal at the end of the episode.
But I don't think we actually find out who wins the game, though, do we? Like, the game just ends.
No.
I would have liked to have known who bloody won it.
Antony especially would like to know the victor.
Penn took herself out of it as well because she ran, so we'll never know. Place your best guesses. That can be the poll of the Spotify. Who is the intellectual genius?
Who won Charades?
Also, marking Antony as a little feminist.
Yeah.
A lifetime of living with Eloise in action there, and being married to Kate.
Yep.
I love how Colin and Penn are snuggled next to each other on the sofa, though. They're holding each other's hands ahoy through. Penn is sort of has him in a death grip, like she's holding on to him for dear life.
Her lifeboat.
And Colin is watching over her every tiny microscopic move. Also, keep an eye on Lord Holly here throughout this entire scene. He's having a whale of a time. Just
to bring it back to Portia for a moment, the scene description highlights her unease in the Bridgerton chaos by saying that we find her awkwardly trying to look casual seated on a poof. She's not used to being included in the fun, and she's feeling strangely shy. Earlier in 305, Varley alluded to Portia and Penn being the most alike in the Featherington family, and this scene kind of reinforces the idea because the writer notes that Penn also reddens as all eyes turn to her when she's called upon to start the game.
I love Portia's reaction here, and I love the way that Polly Walker plays it, because she could have played it in like a I'm just uncomfortable, but you can see her like kind of enjoying it.
Right.
Portia here, like she's never known that loving family, and she doesn't quite know how to be in it, but she's starting to like it. It kind of harkens back to that cut Portia Violet scene that didn't make it into the episode, where Violet has no machinations about Portia. She just wants her to be part of the family now.
And she tells Portia, that she can be just as accepted as Penelope is and is now basically part of the family. The two families are united.
Yeah, it's really sweet.
And as Penn stands up to start the game, we hilariously see a shot of the sofa she just occupied, and next to Colin appear to be two pillows, one of which appears to be a much more smushed biscuit cushion. Correct me if I'm wrong. But if so, I love the idea that he also used two pillows to prop up Penelope and keep her comfortable at their engagement party.
find my biscuit cushion.
Is it on your little chair? Or sometimes you put it behind the chair if you're hiding from people.
My biscuit cushion is somewhere.
You guys spend too much time together.
Well, no, I just remember one time she made this video where like she was putting things away to hide all of her Bridgerton stuff. And she put her little biscuit cushion pillow behind a chair.
Patreon members, I'll try and publish that because I had a friend coming over and I had to hide my life.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, biscuit cushion, it's here somewhere. Incredible lore. If you're a newer listener of ours, you might not have an idea of the illustrious history of the biscuit cushion. If you've been with us longer, if you've been in the trenches, you'll know exactly what biscuit cushion is. Very briefly, during the long wait for season 3, we were trying to find many ways to occupy ourselves as a fandom. One of which was a Reddit game where we were trying to decide the winner of the random object game, where we pitched random objects from the season against one another until we had one final winner. And it ended up becoming this whole thing. In the end, it was the bench that Colin sits on during the fencing scene in 202, head to head with the biscuit cushion that is a cushion with another cushion with a plate of Colin's biscuits that he lovingly propped up to keep them safe. Mm-hmm. We'll link back to the discussion somewhere else. Mm-hmm. But what a full circle moment to have Penn finally sitting on biscuit cushion. It was always like a psychological sort of like empty space in his heart that he was trying to fill with his plate of biscuits.
Also ties to the book.
I mean, if you've read the second epilogue, you know he likes to prop important people up using pillows.
Cushions.
Canon. Beautiful moment. Full circle storytelling. Thank you, writers, even though...
You probably had nothing to do with it, yeah?
Probably had no idea. Although, you know what? The fandom made Pirate Pen happen, so strange things have happened.
Maybe we made Biscuit Cushion happen. Yeah.
And so we begin the game of charades/charades. Lecky, as you were saying, Kate offers Penelope up as the one to begin the game, seeing as though it is her night. And as you were saying, I like how Nicola plays this with Penn, because obviously on the one hand we know that Penn is highly strung over the deadline Ella's imposed, but it also fits with her character as the previous wallflower who is still learning to step into her own self-confidence, still accepting that she's an embraced part of the family now.
Yeah.
So it's lovely to see her in a room full of supportive people instead of the Ton who are actively trying to ridicule her at all times.
Yeah.
Cressida notwithstanding. Although to be fair, like Cressida isn't trying to mess with Penn or ruin her night or anything. She is trying to, be at least inoffensive.
A slightly respectful gatecrasher. Yeah. Also, for all Cressida knows, this might be her last social engagement as well. So maybe some desperation factored into her crashing the party in the first place. She's trying her best.
But yeah, it's nice to see Penn not publicly humiliated, is what I'm trying to say. Veg, I'm sure you agree. And so Penn reads out the first riddle, saying, "My second is conveyed to my first by the company of family. My whole is a product of spring," which I think is really cute because first of all, it's like the company of family, which she's now in, and the idea of the new season that they're in.
Mm-hmm. And a new start, their new relationship, their new marriage.
Absolutely. But Penn aside, this leads us into an incredible Anthony moment, gone down in history. Lecky, take it away.
LILIES, forget-me-not, LILACS. Anthony's outburst, which the script explains is classic competitive Anthony, is just so hilarious.
I love it. These are like the family moments we want.
Yeah. Of course, this has become a beloved line within the fandom, Johnny Bailey at his finest. However, in the original script, we also saw more of the fiery competitive side of Anthony, as Kate originally told Anthony that his guesses made no sense, causing him to argue with her. When Kate then guessed incorrectly, Anthony kind of revels in the moment, and Kate angrily crosses her arms and says that her guess was better than his.
Oh, okay. Who wants to be Kate? Who wants to be Anthony?
Oh, she wants to be Kate. Yeah, she'd rather be not the man.
Yeah. Once again, Beans' aversion to men is nothing to do with Anthony Bridgerton at this time.
No, I'll be Anthony.
Okay, Veg, you be Anthony. Beans, you be Kate. You do love Kate, actually, so this is very fitting.
Okay.
Great.
Lecky, can you be our scene description and scene?
Those two do not even make sense. They are two words.
Do you have a better idea?
A second word is conveyed to the first word by the company of family. Something comfort?
Penelope shakes her head. Anthony looks at her like, ha! Kate crosses her arms.
It was a better guess than yours.
As everyone chuckles and continues thinking on the answer, we're on Elle, hanging back, unable to bear knowing the right answer and not saying.
And sorry, Elle, I'm going to frustrate even more by interrupting you and not letting you say, because why did they cut this Cantony moment?
I don't know.
It drives me crazy because, look, as nice as it is to see like a genuinely loved up, blissfully happy Cantony in season 3 when they were there.
You want to see the fire.
I wish we'd had more moments of them playfully sparring one another like they do here.
Yep.
It's like the core defining part of their relationship is this back and forth, the argumentative side of them.
Yeah, because it's such a big thing in season 2.
It's such a part of their love story to have that squabbly back and forth maintained. And like, because they're so in love, when they're arguing, it's clearly like deeply rooted in affection.
Yeah.
It's their love language. So we know that it's never an actual argument. So I don't know like why occasionally like the story pulls back from us letting them see them argue.
Yeah.
Almost as if like we're going to interpret them as actually arguing, which we know they're not.
Yeah, especially in this instance where it's 100% playful and you could recognize it as playful.
Yeah, because it's like their pal mal natures coming straight back.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a pity. And it's something that felt a little bit lacking with Cantony in season 3. But of course, Eloise can't stop herself from getting the correct answer and so offers it up to the room. It's Hearties. Elle takes the book, which also, I've wondered this all year. Did they just use the same book? Do they have to keep buying new versions? Because, like, surely once you've answered them once, you know what they are.
Yeah, I'm sure you would buy another edition, but I mean, like, if there aren't many other
Wasteful
party game alternatives, and it's a pretty big book, and how often are they playing charades anyway? So, I mean, I buy it.
Yeah, like Trivial Pursuit or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when we've got question cards for like Linky or something.
But for what? What the hell's
Linky?
Are you making this up, babe?
Linky? Oh, no. You have to like connect connect groups. What's the connection kind of vibe?
Oh, right.
Okay.
Oh, word association?
It will be like Wicked,
Oh, Johnny Bailey.
Leonardo!
Bridgerton.
Yeah, okay, I get it. Linky.
Yeah, it's like a game that you get that you say, oh, we can always buy the booster pack, but you never end up buying it because you don't get through it.
Yeah.
It's such a Bridgerton thing that if they were ever doing this, they would be like constantly breaking into Anthony's study to steal this book.
To cheat?
And read all the answers to cheat.
To make him angry? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know.
Someone write a fic about that. That's cute.
He's bought it afresh. He got it from Devon. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
And Anthony locks in for round 2, but it's Penn who once again bests the rest of the guests, correctly guessing conundrum. I'd be shit at this game, I have to say. But the game continues with Cressida making an incorrect guess before Eloise guesses friendship, is it not? Perfect little icebreaker there for the two ex-friends. But it shows that Penelope's are intellectual soulmates, because they're just so both on the same wavelength. Not just like the level of intelligence, but the kind of intelligence and the fact that they sort of see things in the same way. And this makes Cressida feel even more left out and isolated by the relationship. And Tilly is also feeling left out, but Ben points out that the game has been taken over by Penelope's head-to-head.
Do you remember the cutscene where she was like, women should support one another? Maybe stay in your lane, Tilly. That's all.
Yeah, Tilly.
Be supportive.
My God.
Seeing Penn and Eloise interact in the game makes Colin hopeful that the rift will be finally settled. And he says as much to Benedict and Tilly.
And our listener, Annie M, said, why did Colin not partake in the charades? He, like Penn, is quite wordy. So it would have been nice to have seen him making a guess or two. What do you think? I think his head was just so out of the game. It's just so focused on worrying about Penn.
Yeah, I agree.
That he's like mentally just not even. And you can kind of see him like turning and like just not being in it at all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure he would have been great at it though. He's very quick-witted and good with words.
You can kind of see the panic in his head where instead of really paying attention to the game, he's like, finally, Eloise and Penelope will patch things up. Do you know what I mean? Like he's trying to figure out what is going to solve this awkwardness.
And you know what, like, I totally agree. I think the reason he's not in the game is, as we've said, he's worried about Penn. But even if things were fine between them and his head was present, I still don't think he would have been super competitive in this because they're not like Cantony where they're directly competitive in public. I think he would have preferred to sit back, watch Penn shine, let her do her thing and just sit proudly on and watch her.
And at this point, there was a cut exchange between Marcus and Lady Danbury, with the latter making it known that she doesn't approve of him courting Violet, hinting that she deserves better.
And then we also have the cutaway of Gregory and Hyacinth running play a game of chess. I thought they were going to smuggle drinks the first time I saw this. I don't know why, but they're just playing like a very innocent game of chess. Meanwhile, you can hear Eloise in the background saying, my first is somewhat soft and yellow, especially in the spring. My next a busy, meddling fellow, but we never hear the rest. But I do like the reference to yellow there.
There was also a cut moment between Alice and Will here. At the end of Alice's and Will's exchange about how much of Will's family life he's been missing, Alice originally hammered her point home by saying, I know how much the club means to you, Will, how hard you fought to build it, but this new life affords us so much more. Will then explained why the club was so important to him and made some pretty valid points, in my opinion, that would have negatively impacted his storyline, I think, if they had left this in. Will remarked that the one thing I disliked when I was boxing was that I was a spectacle, on display. And all of this, it is spectacle again. The club is the one place that is truly mine, where I feel valued instead of merely observed. First of all, I think Martin's would have knocked this out of the park. But anyway, Alice responded by saying that his family values him, explaining that is why he doesn't need the club. Will then agreed with her, deciding to give up on his dream, which is kind of soul-crushing. But this set up the 306 scene we later see where the men meet to have drinks and give the bar a good send-off. Kind of depressing.
It's so depressing. I think she's so harsh here.
Yeah.
Because I remember when we were originally watching it and we were like, oh, I totally see what they're doing. They're using Will and Alice and Will's dreams as like
to parallel.
A parallel for Penelope, where she thinks she has to give up her dreams. And then obviously with Pen, what we see is her happy ending is that she can have it all.
But not for Will.
Yeah, we were so convinced that like Will was going to have the same way. It was like, yeah, he can like break those barriers and break those expectations of society. And instead the resolution to his story is that he gives up his dream. Like,
I guess there is also another interesting parallel here where he says that he doesn't like being the spectacle. So we kind of get the out of the shadows connection there as well, where like maybe he's better off in the spotlight, but he literally says that he's happier in his bar. Let him keep his bar, Alice. I don't know. Anyway, what could have been?
But anyway, Will's fortunes end up changing as he is eventually the one who finally breaks their Eloise-Penelope cycle to take over the game of charades. Meanwhile, my fave, Lord Holly, is having the time of his life. Keep an eye on him. I also have to give a little shout out for a very sweet Polin moment as Pen reaches out to take Colin's hand. And we see all those moments of Pen showing physical affection for Colin, right from the carriage where she runs her hand through his hair, through to their sex scene, of course, and the way that she's constantly reaching for him throughout this scene. But the physical isn't quite enough to reassure him. And it's also not enough to reassure Pen, as she is increasingly panicking at the thought that these might be the last moments she will ever be able to have him like this. And it's sort of like a desperate reaching out for reassurance. And our listener Nick said, I love the charade scene. We went with the charades. It's such a brilliant and funny scene that showcases characters' traits. Kate and Anthony being competitive, Eloise and Pen's cleverness, Cressida trying to join in but not being as good as Eloise or Pen, Colin being Pen's cheerleader by his body language, the way he leans forward to concentrate on her when it's her turn. Oh, that's really sweet, actually. When he's like, I'm here.
Oh.
But he only has eyes for her throughout the whole scene. Also, Portia had a brilliant moment here, I thought. She was so happy getting the rainbow solution, which made me chuckle as the clues are about adorning a child's hair, harkening back to all of Pen's boasts in the past seasons.
Yeah.
And the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Surely she's wanted a magic pot of gold due to the Featherington's money worries over the years.
Oh, that's funny.
I like it. That's such a clever way to include her in the scene.
I love how she reaches up and like touches her hair when she says rainbow, because she's literally thinking of the bow she's put on Penelope's head. But anyway.
Yeah, and she's so happy and everyone's like really happy for her when she gets it right. So Nick, I totally agree. There's so much going on in this scene, and I think it is one of those tapestries of a scene where everyone gets a little character moment that's really fun to zoom into, especially Lord Holly. Hang on a minute, listeners. Veg has just sent us something in the group chat.
That is a PDF scan of a book of those charade riddle things.
The Little Riddler. Sorry, hilarious name.
It doesn't have the flower one, but it does have the full riddle.
Oh, the yellow one?
Oh, is this the actual book? Sorry, if you're listening, listeners, which I assume you are, it's a podcast. So Veg has found the actual book that we think he's reading from called The Little Riddler with Many Engravings.
Yeah, it's a book. So do you want the full riddle? And we can see if we can get it.
Yeah.
Please do.
My first is somewhat soft and yellow, especially in spring. My next, a busy meddling fellow forever on the wing. My whole, like an inconstant rover, from fair to fair one flies, till his career of pleasure over, he drooping sinks and dies.
Butterfly.
Yes, that's right, Of.
Soft and yellow. With wings.
Good job.
What the fuck? That's crazy. You would do well in the 1800s.
I thought B, you know?
Yeah, oh, that'd be good. Well, I was thinking like a duckling.
So it would have been butter. Why did they not include that? I mean, they kind of did in the background.
Super relevant, yeah.
It's such a wasted opportunity.
The beginning of eternity, the end of time and space, the beginning of every end, and the end of every place.
Beans, what are you reading? Oh, is that another riddle? I thought it was just like coming from your heart then. I was so taken.
The letter E.
Yeah, but is that the answer? Just E?
Yeah.
Great. Well done, everyone. We're clearly better at this, so.
Yay!
So game aside, Eloise heads away for a moment, clearly still very tied up mentally with her relationship with Pen. And Cressida follows to tell Eloise of her plan to avoid Greer. She's going to get the flat in Vienna, live her own life with the reward money from Lady Whistledown. Also, why does everyone go to Vienna in the show? Is she going to go live with the unnamed Medice? Now that would be a storyline.
Vienna waits for you, Ovs.
Anyway, Cressida is angry that Eloise doesn't care about her predicament, and Eloise then makes a very clumsy remark that Cressida will never be able to find Lady Whistledown because Eloise couldn't find her herself, which Cressida takes to mean that she's not clever enough. And this conversation is one of the real downfalls for Eloise. Eloise is far too much back in Pen's orbit, too mentally tied up with her relationship, whether she wants to be or not, and she completely neglects to pay any attention to Cressida. And then this neglect is what really propels Cressida to go a bit renegade and follow her own plans and announces that she's Lady Whistledown. So what do you think about Ellen Cressida here? Because I love Eloise as a character and I love her journey in this season, but there are some really frustrating moments, especially in part 2, where she is just a bad friend in the situation. And she so sets up these issues. Like, the position that Cressida is in is so dire. And Eloise just doesn't listen and care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To her credit, earlier in the episode, she did when Cressida first revealed that she was going to be married off to Lord Greer. But at this moment, the situation has gotten so much worse for Cressida because Cressida now knows what living with Lord Greer will be like. And Eloise is completely checked out. This is like when she needs the friend.
Yeah, I take it back that she doesn't care. I just think she's just not listening.
Yeah, she's not listening, and that this is like the beginning of the downfall for their relationship, but it's the fact that things have gotten so much worse for Cressida, and Eloise is not tuned in, so she doesn't realize.
Yeah, the stakes are so much higher. Things are in motion as we head to the crescendo. And our listener, Rocky Road, incredible name, said, I really love the suspense at the latter part of the episode. However, the continuity and the little details takes me out on rewatches, like how the monsters keep moving from room to room, from Anthony playing charades to chatting with Violet. What do you think are little changes to make it more cohesive and structured? Well, I think a lot of this comes down to what you've been sharing, Lecky, that there are so many cut moments that sort of would have shown us how everyone ended up in the places that we were in, but because we lose them, they kind of make it a bit more fragmented.
And a couple moments were moved around, like Will and Alice's conversation that I was talking about occurred at a completely different point in the engagement party. So things like that could have been responsible, but yeah.
And speaking of cut moments.
So we've touched on this one in one of our past episodes, but there was a cut conversation between Fran and Antony at this point. He kind of goes into the conversation almost trying to prove that John isn't the person for Francesca. He asks Fran to describe John, and when she kind of stumbles at first, saying that he's kind, Antony remarks that he thought Edwina was kind and says that although he loves Edwina, they were not meant for each other. I think this was cut because, again, we don't need those constant reminders of Edwina within Cantony's happy ever after. Also, Fran then goes on to wax poetic about John, saying, John is quiet, but when every other suitor was talking at me, John was the only one listening. I enjoy his modest humor and the fact that he attends our assemblies even though he knows he does not quite fit in here. I know that his reticence may make him seem impenetrable, but to me, it is the silence that allows me to find him and to feel found myself. Very, very sweet. With this, Fran convinces Antony that she really is in love, but the scene description kind of indicates that she is still a little uncomfortable with the word love, which I think is setting up the idea that there is something missing from her relationship with John. There's also a funny line in the scene description within their conversation, but basically Antony shares a story about how Fran used to hide in the laundry chute during summers at Aubrey Hall, a hilarious visual of how she perhaps used to hide away from her family. But he adds that she spent so much time hiding that he's still not sure where to find her, and Fran responds by saying, that is a metaphor, isn't it? And the scene description says, Fran does not like metaphors.
I think it's a real shame that this was cut. Maybe not the whole Edwina thing.
Yeah.
But I think this moment of Fran standing up for John, but then also sharing about how she feels about him, because there's been a lot of discourse about Fran and John's love story as it was portrayed in season 3, as it's going to be portrayed in seasons beyond. And the creative teams have reiterated that Michaela and Fran's love story will not negate the connection that Fran and John share and will share. And I do think that having Fran's speech here would have really highlighted the unique type of love, even if she's uncomfortable with exactly like what that love is and like how to quantify it or name it. It really shows that they do share something. There's a deep deep bond there.
Yeah.
And that Fran finds something with John that makes her so drawn to him. So I feel like everyone would have benefited from having this speech.
I think it's going to be a case of she loves him, she's just not in love with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like soul companions that have this deep, deep bond. But with Michaela, she'll find something different. It's like John is her silence and her space, whereas Michaela is ultimately the person who will fill that, because John will leave a void in her life and will leave nothing but silence, whereas Michaela will sort of offer a different respite for her.
Bringing her back to the family and making Francesca feel comfortable within her family is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, be like the Bridgerton character.
Because Francesca, when she's with her family, she almost feels more alone. So I wonder if with Michaela, it'll be a scenario where when Michaela is around, Francesca finally feels at home within her large family. Like she has her own place and she's comfortable there.
And it's like you were saying about Vicus, Lecky, the fact that Violet finds something within Marcus does not in any way diminish what she shared with Edmund. Of course it doesn't. Like, we know the depth of that love.
Yeah.
So it does feel like a good parallel to have. But we will return to Fran in just a moment. However, before then...
Before John returns to his Muddy Boots 2.0 story, according to the script, we would have seen Anthony rejoining Kate and Violet, updating them about how his conversation with Fran went. Anthony informs Violet that he's given Fran his blessing. Violet is surprised to hear this, though Kate remarks that she thinks they are a harmonious pair. An interesting callback to an earlier conversation between Violet and Fran in 301, where Violet encouraged Fran to find a person with whom she could make an unexpected harmony.
Oh, I love that little music analogy. That's really sweet. And so we move to a scene that I can watch. I can't watch the earlier Fran scene because it's so painful. But we have Fran and John reapproaching Cantony and Violet for John to retell the Muddy Boots story. I love that he tries to tell it again. He's sort of gone away, recomposed himself, and he's reaching out again because he cares about Fran so much that he's pushing through his own introvertedness to try to reach out to the very extroverted Bridgerton family.
This is literally what Fran just said. She said that, I enjoy his modest humor and the fact that he attends our assemblies even though he knows he does not quite fit in. This is him trying to fit in, even though it's really hard for him.
And you can see her enjoying him telling the story as well. I'm going to tell it in full because I love it so much. And it's also deeply tragic. He says, without such an audience, I should like to share with you three the true story of my muddy boots. Here is what truly happened. A suspicious streak of mud found its way into our home. And there we were, myself, the servants, even my mother, chasing this mysterious mud through the house. Even as servants tried to clean it, more spots appeared as if from a phantom. As I reached the end of my rope, I finally looked down to discover the phantom was, in fact, me, chasing the mud with my own boots. All that to say, sometimes I miss what is right in front of me, but not Miss Francesca. Her, I saw straight away. Lecky, go for it. I mean, I remember you listened to this and you were immediately like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. So there's some really tragic, depressing foreshadowing here. The phantom was, in fact, me. This foreshadowing here, of course, is a reference to John being a phantom and how he's going to die in the future. He even says that he was at the end of his rope, foreshadowing that he will soon depart this mortal coil.
Rest in peace, John. Fly high with Edmund and the angels.
Yeah, and Archie and all of them.
And Archie, and who else is dying? Maybe King George. We'll see.
There's also some funny scene description here when John announces that he'd like to share the true story of his money boots now that there isn't as much of an audience. The scene description reads, oh God, more about his boots?
Excuse me. Show some respect.
Ruth also plays this so well, looking visibly pained when he first begins, then kind of falsely nodding along to show that she's listening and being supportive, only to end up being absolutely touched by his words. And then after John's more successful story, the scene description says that Violet is lightly amused, but what really draws her delight is watching Fran watch John. And when John explains how he saw Francesca, Violet delivers a genuine smile.
Also, a complete shout out to Victor Ali because he plays John so beautifully. He gets him. He's going to break our hearts. And then this is probably like completely unintentional parallel, but I will just very briefly mention it. I don't think it was written like this, but the whole like concept of like the muddy boots, the mud trailing through, it reminds me of the Polin meet cute in the mud. And I thought it was so funny that the moral of his story is that like John was like, you know what, sometimes I miss what's right in front of me. But Francesca, I saw her straight away, acted on it straight away. And it's like this really funny parallel to Colin who like couldn't see what was in front of him for like decades.
Take that, Colin. Hilarious.
And as you say, their story goes down so much better with Violet saying, you are right, that is quite a story after all. And Cantony also seem charmed. Cantony, I think, possibly won over, but we know that Violet, although she's won in the moment, it will continue to be a recurring issue throughout episode 6. She really can't let it go. But let's head back to see how the rest of the game is going. Ben is up at the front with his riddle that my first is nothing but a name, my second still more small, my whole of so much smaller fame, it has no name at all. Fame and name, this feels very pertinent. And it clearly gets Cressida's mind ticking like that clock on the mantelpiece. Pen, meanwhile, looks like she's about to throw up. She accidentally catches Colin's eyes and tries to smile, but it looks like she's about to be chucked on an executioner's block. And once again, Colin is desperately thrown by how uncomfortable she appears by being there next to him.
If you're still trying to solve the charade, you might as well give up because Tilly has beat you to it, declaring the answer to be nameless. And with the worst possible timing, Colin chips in that this is something Lady Whistledown will not be for much longer.
Veg, this is once again your favourite type of storytelling, isn't it? Where every single line is designed to be a dagger in Pen's chest.
At a certain point, it just gets silly.
It's like, give this poor girl a break. Lord Holly thinks Colin is absolutely hilarious, and as ever, I'm with Lord Holly. But a quick glance to the clock reveals that it's now 11:10, meaning this game has gone on for fucking hours.
Long night.
Their brains must be like, do you know, like at a point when like someone's like just talking in riddles, you're like, I've mentally
checked out,
completely checked out of this.
For some reason, white moms love Cards Against Humanity. I know mine does. And we will keep playing until I literally want to lose my mind, but nobody knows when to say stop because she just wants to keep going.
That's a great example because this is also a game that has no end. It could just keep going and going and going.
This reminds me of whatchamacallit, quiz games during the pandemic on Zoom calls. I was in so many groups of people who would have a weekly quiz.
My God.
And it would end and then nobody would like end the call at the end. And I remember sitting there for hours and it going on. And in the end, I was like, bye.
Yeah. I need to go. I need to leave.
But it's 55 minutes until Penelope's life turns back into a pumpkin. And Portia pipes up that the Queen will certainly make sure that Whistledown will be exposed as Eloise stares blankly at Colin. Cressida then tries to chip in a line about what she thinks to the contrary about Lady Whistledown before she is cut out by Pen asking, who'd pursue a matter as trivial as Whistledown's identity? It all feels vulgar. Meanwhile, Ben chips in that Lady Whistledown is the vulgar one. Another knife to the chest for you there, Veg. Although he concedes that the tongue could do with a little vulgarity. And of course, the conversation then devolves into this discussion where every line about Lady Whistledown's identity is working to heighten Pen's panic more and more. Pen tries to drive the conversation away, but she fails, which I think is really interesting because with the written word, she has such a command over conversation and the way that the ton sees things, but she still hasn't unified that with her actual voice. And so in person, she can't quite guide conversation in the same way. Cressida again tries to chip in her thoughts before Alice says, if she is unmasked, it will spell ruin for her family. And then Colin helpfully says,
certainly any hope of marriage.
And the scene description says, we watch as this lands on Cressida. Pen covers her shock. Eloise takes notice.
I think it is clever that this line is written to play to Pen, Cressida and Colin, because obviously the loss of marriage is Cressida's salvation. It's exactly what she's trying to achieve. But it would be Pen's doom because the stakes aren't just her identity being discovered by the ton, it's losing Colin, which feels all the more of an imminent pressing matter with every passing second. And it causes Pen to panic even more, which then Colin sees and then he misinterprets it because he thinks that it means that she doesn't want marriage.
More than that, though, he is almost talking about marriage because he's trying to remind himself and maybe even Penelope how happy it is that they're about to be married. And instead she just looks even more worried.
Yeah. He's like, marriage, it's not a great thing. And she's there like palpitating.
Yeah.
And then it's at this point that Pen excuses herself as Elle watches after, and Colin downs his drink.
If you ever realize that Ben and Tilly go missing after this point, it's because they decide to slip out for a moment, as it's said in the script, setting up the precedent of Ben leaving to hook up with people during family events. But they escape unnoticed. Portia notices Pen's unease, and the way that Colin is watching Pen, clearly clocking her behavior. No pun intended. She originally called Pen out on this by saying, you keep watching the clock as if you are looking for an escape. What is wrong? When Pen deflected, Portia then told her to smile, saying, your fiancé is watching. Your marriage is not accomplished yet. Seeing Colin looking at her, Pen then excused herself from the room, with Colin following.
That'd been funny. The second that she mentions Colin, she's like, I'm off. Like a runaway bride.
I found this interesting because it kind of sets up the conflict between Portia and Penelope next episode, where Portia's reminding her, like, you need to take this to the finish line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do what it takes to keep your husband happy. But anyway, Colin, noticing that something is amiss yet again, heads out right after Penelope. I have to wonder how he didn't hear her gasping for air on the other side of the door since he appears to be listening to her, but whatever.
Yeah, being she was doing her classic Regency breathing that you enjoy so much.
Yeah, no.
And in the script, Pen tries to catch her breath in the hallway at first, only to discover she's picked the wrong hiding place, right next to another large clock. Then she disappears into the drawing room, as you see in the show.
Well, Colin can't find Pen in his own family house where he has lived his entire life.
Where she's breathing heavily on the other side of the wall.
We know she's good at hiding. And also it's kind of like, he is looking for her, but he also is very worried about what he'd find. Maybe she just needed to go pee or something.
Yeah,
we're all humans.
He's done that before during engagement parties. Remember the dinner? He slipped off to have a little moment to himself.
It's like, can a girl just not have a moment of privacy?
Yeah.
Well, very, very stressful, Polin aside. How are Cantony doing? It turns out they've decided that they're going to announce their pregnancy after all.
Somewhat hilariously, Kate drew out the reveal so much in the original script that Lady Danbury had to prompt her into speaking by saying, "Is it news you were going to share?" Or, and then kind of paused pointedly. Kate then went on to explain they were waiting for the right time before reasoning that perhaps the right time might never come. Basically, why not share the news now? All of this would have taken away from the suspense building in these final moments before Cressida's declaration, so that's probably why they cut this out.
Yeah. And Billy Woodruff does such a good job of sort of intercutting between all these moments to really, really ramp up the pressure and build us to this crescendo.
And you don't want to break that tension with a joke.
Right.
Or draw out the scene unnecessarily.
Yeah, or have like a whole conversation.
Yeah.
Kate announces, we are expecting, much to Veg's delight. I mean, Veg isn't, against it. Sorry, I meant to say Violet. Violet and Danbury rejoice at the news. However, some of our listeners have mixed emotions about the scene. One of our listeners, Gabby, speaking on behalf of many in the fandom, I would argue, said, "I always thought it was rude that Kate and Anthony were going to announce they were pregnant at his brother's engagement party. I would love to know your thoughts."
Anthony posting on Reddit, "Am I the arsehole? Am I the arsehole for announcing my pregnancy?"
Yes, kind of. Sorry.
I don't know. I can't decide whether it's like totally out of character or totally in character.
I think it's a bit of both. Anthony's always about big gestures, even at the detriment of others. Look at how he proposed to Edwina. It was like so last minute. Nobody expected it really, and they were all taken aback, and I feel that's just the timing that he has.
You know what's funny is that it's also kind of a Bridgerton trait, because if you remember Colin announcing his engagement back in season 1, that's kind of what Anthony is doing here.
Exactly.
Yeah, and to be fair, like Fron announced their engagement very close to Polin's. It's not like at their engagement party though, is it?
They weren't like at a social event, yeah.
I think they like all fight for attention in their own weird ways.
Yeah. And it's like there's 8 of them, so
yeah,
it's like someone having a birthday. Like someone's always having a birthday, aren't they? So like if you're waiting for the right moment, which is the point that Kate is making, then
it might not ever come. Yeah.
Also, they're not announcing it to the room. It's not like announcing that you're like pregnant at someone's wedding in the middle of a toast. It's just the 2 people. I think the only thing that's weird is it's like such a 180 from Kate that just doesn't kind of make sense within the episode, but it's clearly done to sort of like ramp up the sort of farce at the end where everyone is announcing everything.
The little Cantony moment that we see here was also longer in the script and kind of oddly doubled down on the idea that Kate was hesitant about their new role as parents. After seeing Hai and Greg playing with Nikki, Anthony jokingly asks Kate if it's too late to rethink their family plans, to which Kate responds by confessing the secret she's been holding onto all episode. But in the original conversation, Kate not only explains that she and Anthony are so happy that she wishes it could be just the 2 of them on their own for a little longer, but she also admits to feeling guilty for feeling that way. She adds that her hesitancy was never about Edwina, an excuse she made earlier, which I think they wisely cut, and that she is now resolved to be the best mother that she can be. Kate then apologizes for keeping her concerns from Anthony, who kind of lovingly tells her to always be open with him. I think this was trimmed down significantly because the whole idea of Kate maybe not looking forward to her pregnancy or kind of regretting the loss of their life without children, even for a moment, kind of diminishes the happy Cantony ever after. And again, no one wants to hear about Edwina's role in the relationship after this point, let alone the idea of Kate using her sister as a reason to hide her true feelings from her husband, even if, by the end, the script assures us that Cantony are stupidly in love and eager to share their news. Also, eager to kiss each other in public, which we all know is one of their favorite pastimes by now.
Yeah, this is an example of a storyline for Cantony that I'm happy to lose, because, again, it kind of doesn't come from anywhere that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like they were trying to bring in season 2, but no one wants to be reminded of the love triangle once the love triangle is over, you know?
Yeah. What you can do is keep in, like, the funny little bitey moments that remind you of the basis of their love. Like, there is a compromise, isn't there, as opposed to conflict and like pure blissful happiness.
Yeah.
You can find sort of middle ground. Back to the others, though, we have these intercut scenes of Colin searching for Pen as the others discuss Lady Whistledown.
So there's also some dialogue in the final episode that wasn't on the page, which I think may have been ADR or voiceover that they added in post, where they're talking about the Lady Whistledown issue. The dialogue not only gives Cressida a bit more incentive, revealing that Lady Whistledown may live a finer life than any of them, but it also amplifies tension as we're reminded of how long Pen's been carrying the secret and how much of a burden it must be for her.
Alice is like, can you imagine living with that secret all this time? It must burn away at her. Terrible living a double life like that. And obviously this is all cut over Pen having a panic attack, essentially. And I suppose the idea of it burning away at her, it does also help Pen narratively because it reminds the audience that this is a huge burden. Like, she isn't lying out of pure ease. Like, it does weigh on her as an active decision that she keeps making by not telling him the truth.
It's also interesting when Portia says that the one reason that Lady Whistledown might want to be unmasked is that she would certainly not have to marry, because Colin earlier comes to a similar conclusion, saying Lady Whistledown would certainly be left without any hope of marriage, but Portia views this as a boon.
And it's clever how the writing, again, doubles up for both Pen's fears and Cressida's hopes.
It's actually really clever writing there because it also touches on Portia's view of marriage.
Yeah.
They're expressing so many different character viewpoints with just a couple lines of dialogue.
Yeah. As we're reaching this crescendo where Pen is struggling to breathe, choking on her own breath, as foreshadowed earlier in the episode. I also like the way it's shot here because it's returned to earlier in 305 where Bridgerton House feels really sinister with the filming angles and the harsh blue lighting. I think Billy Woodruff filmed this really, really well, especially when he's contrasting Cressida's elation with Pen's reactions. But now Pen finally rejoins Colin. We're seconds away from midnight, meaning that Colin and Pen have been playing this little game of hide and seek for 55 minutes. Pen is not doing well, and the room begins to tilt as it did at the beginning of 305. It's all catching up with her as the deadline approaches.
Colin immediately gets up and makes a beeline for Pen, sorry Edmund, when she re-enters the room. He asks where she ran off to because he's been looking for her. The script also points out that he notices her drawn features.
As Pen looks over to Elle, the clock strikes midnight. Time's up, pal.
Colin finally confronts Pen, aware that something is wrong. He says, I know something is bothering you. I can feel it. All evening you have been shirking my gaze. I would understand if you got swept up in the carriage, if you do not now share my feelings.
And like he just wrote a lot of broken hearts. Oh, this is awful. God. Obviously, this is building up to what happens at the beginning of 307 after the discovery, where he's like, I knew something was wrong and I thought it was me. Which obviously she's never intended to bring this out in him. She's never intended to make him feel like this. It's like a byproduct of the situation. But it really reinforces why, when he finds out, he has such an adverse reaction. And you can understand why that would turn to anger in the end.
It's so sad that he thinks the fault lies with him, but this is actually set up pretty well because you see that in season 1 and even in season 2, he knows when Pen is lying to him or when something is troubling her. We've seen that many, many times in 108 and again in 207. So really, Penelope should have expected that he was going to catch on.
Yeah, be honest. Just be honest with the people that you're with, especially if you love them. Have respect for them and their autonomy. And I know this is scary and whatever, but like, honesty is going to be your best policy, even when it comes to moments that you are embarrassed about yourself, because then it all spirals out and then everyone finds out that your entire life is a lie, and then you have to pick up the pieces, and then the people that are left behind from your trail of destruction also question themselves with everything that you've done. So just be honest. No, I'm not speaking from experience, not at all.
I think as well, it's like a reminder that it isn't just the secret that can do so much damage. It's the concealment itself. It makes you second guess your judgment.
Yes.
It makes you second guess what you thought you knew about your life and the person that you're with. And because of Colin with his character that we've seen throughout the whole show, really, we know that he takes other people's problems. We saw it with Marina when that happened to him, which is why I can be frustrated with the way that part 2 is done, because in some ways it should have been an antithesis to Marina rather than like a parallel, because in season 1 and season 2 we saw how he took what happened with Marina and he pulled it on himself.
Internalized it.
He was like haunted because of what he did. And he went and apologized to her, which is a horrible thing. Like, he went and said, I was in the wrong. I'm sorry. I've been haunted by what I did. But when we all know, like, he wasn't the one to blame for that situation. If anything, he was the victim.
And he's doing the same thing here. He's saying, it must be me.
And that's the thing. When you are deceptive with your partner, there's this sense of control that you have to find in these situations where it's like, is there something that I did that was wrong that I can help out with this situation to make it okay again? And there just isn't. And the thing is you will sit there and you will think about it over and over and over again. what could have changed? How could I have approached this differently? When it's really nothing that he could have done. And maybe I'm telling this to myself.
Oh, babe.
There's just like nothing, you know? There's nothing that he could have done in this situation. I think we're talking about happy endings, so they will be fine. But in the real world, there is always going to be that trust that is lost, and always in the back of your head, that insecurity as well. What are they hiding? If they hid this, what else is there? Did I not get the entire truth? And it builds.
Yeah, and it leaves damage.
Yeah.
And like you say, that's not going to happen for Polin because they will have their permanent happy ending and full trust. But look, Beans has had a time.
We could talk about this more during the actual Lady Whistledown reveal, but I also share your frustration because I do feel like Penelope, having seen what Marina did to Colin and the huge impact that had on him,
Yeah.
I don't think that Penelope would repeat Marina's mistakes.
I mean, yes. That's the thing, too, is like... this fucking episode.
We did notice a bit of an awkward one for you to have to film, babe.
It's like when you have opened up, or literally in Pen's situation, where she has seen that Colin was so affected by this other relationship, and then to still hold on to that secret as well, and know how much it messed up with him. When the other person knows that you had an awful, like, relationship, and then they still chose to act the way that they did. It fucks you up because you question your self-worth. Do I deserve this? Do I deserve to be treated this way?
Especially Colin, who said, I must have been a fool. And she's like, you're not a fool. But then she ends up kind of making him be the fool.
Right. You're not a fool. And then the other thing, too, is any apology that comes afterwards is like, you don't even know if they're apologizing to you because they're like upset that they were caught, or they're feeling guilt because they're caught. And that's always going to be triggered.
Yep. Which is why she always should have just told him.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And just to clarify, I think, because we will come back to this a lot in part 2, it's less of a criticism of Pen as a character. It's more of a criticism of how the story was told, because I think season 1 and season 2, Pen
wouldn't have done this.
I don't know that she would do some of the steps that she did.
100%, I agree.
And I think it's one of those cases where narratively drama takes precedent over true character motivation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
And I think that's where we feel the frustration. But let's move on, because to Pen's credit in this moment, she is trying to reassure him, and she tries to sort of get out, like, no, Colin, to refute the idea, because he thinks that she's been swept away. She's saying no, but...
More than that, she's getting ready to actually tell him the truth here, but
her panic attack is in full force. And as someone who ended up in an ambulance from panic attack, I get you, Pen. I've been there. It's not easy. Eloise, though, never been one to read a room correctly, decides that now is the moment to approach Colin and tell him about Lady Whistledown. Can you imagine?
When Penelope is actually trying to get the words out. I mean, like, give her a fucking minute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, give her a chance. It's literally just gone midnight, and Eloise is like...
Here I am, yeah.
Didn't know you were so fucking punctual, El.
Well, but Eloise is also acting from a place of guilt and anger as well.
Yeah, she's frustrated, and that's what's propelling her.
Yeah.
We've talked about it previously, but I think part of the reason Elle has been pushing this so much for Pen is because Elle also feels this guilt keeping it from her brother, because as we know, silence is still deception. It's still lying. So it's like, while she wants Colin to know, she's like, well, if it's out there, then my conscience will be cleared, because she doesn't realize the fallout of this is that she's still kind of like part of this lie as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And have you ever been in a situation where, like, you end up being complicit in something that goes against what you would have done?
Yes! Stop! Yes!
And you're like, how the fuck have I ended up in this situation?
I was complicit and didn't even know!
Yeah.
And that's so frustrating, especially for, like, and I'm not saying it would with Elle, but, like, personally, if it goes so against, like, your morals or, like, how you would handle a situation, and you're like, how the fuck have I been roped into this, and now I'm gonna look bad in the situation?
Right.
And so, like, you can understand that frustration as well.
But the thing is, Eloise has these blinders on where she doesn't realize that Penelope is actually trying to tell Colin the truth. And she doesn't realize that this moment at the engagement party, in front of basically the entire town, isn't the right moment to force...
It isn't.
To force Penelope to share this information about her identity that could be extremely damaging, not necessarily just to the Bridgertons, but could also imperil Penelope if all these other people find out as well. I mean, it's one thing to tell Colin, but to force her to do it in a room surrounded by other people. And then also Penelope is actively trying to get the words out. So, I mean, like, just stay across the room. Stay in your lane.
I think it also comes down to like how people are held accountable for their actions. Some people absolutely need to be exposed to their family, friends, and everyone because they will not be held accountable. And if it's done in private, it's like, well, then I can sweep it under the rug and move on with my life. When you're forced to like confront that in front of the people you love, it's no longer a secret anymore. It's true.
Yeah, but a secret this big could put Penelope in danger.
As I was saying, I don't think Pen is someone that needs to be exposed to everyone to hold herself accountable. I think that she can hold that accountability without having her entire life exposed in such a way that it was about to be.
Agreed.
And you don't know how Colin's going to react, like in the middle of the room.
Yeah.
He could stay really quiet. He could make a massive scene. We know he likes to storm out of a room and slam a door. But Colin is not listening because Pen is well and truly about to collapse, and he sends Elle to go and get help, at which point all hell breaks loose. Cantonese announcer expecting to Violet and Lady Danbury. Meanwhile, Cressida too has an announcement of her own. I'm realising there are a lot of announcements in this episode. We're engaged. We're pregnant. I am she.
I am she.
The Queen's proclamation.
Oh, yeah. John asking for permission as well.
Yeah, it's all fucking happening. And Cressida says, I have an announcement. It is time I put an end to the speculation.
Because there has been so much rumour and speculation, innuendo, outnuendo.
You would like to know who Lady Whistledown is. You shall know I am she. They ask if she's jesting, but she says, I jest not, I am Lady Whistledown, and you are right, I can do whatever I want. And of course, book fans, you know this is taken quite similarly from the book at the Macclesfield Ball, where Cressida said, I have come to the conclusion that I can no longer continue the deception that has ruled my life for the last 11 years. Therefore, I have decided to reveal my secret. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Lady Whistledown. And Jess Brownell talked about this moment to the Bridgerton podcast, saying that the Cressida plot twist is straight out of the books. That's a Julia Quinn moment. We shifted the plot around this season, but all of the elements are really still there. They're just not in the same order, and they don't necessarily involve the same lineup of people. But this moment was one I thought played really well. There's been this dynamic between Penelope and Cressida for 2 seasons. We've watched her be Penelope's mean girl. She's always been a part of Penelope's story. It felt right to bring that to a head. Pen tells Colin she cannot breathe, fulfilling his prophecy from earlier on, and promptly collapses in front of everyone. I remember that this came out, I don't know, it was like CBS or something.
CBS News. CBS Morning, maybe.
It wasn't CBS News, it was CBS Morning News.
Yeah, it was like a behind-the-scenes clip of Pen fainting, and you could clearly tell that Cressida was announcing she was Lady Whistledown. Like, you could sort of see the setup.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time we were like, is she faking it to like get out of the moment?
Yeah.
Which is something I would do, but alas, it was a genuine swoon.
Which is actually very funny because Penelope mocked Cressida for fake swooning, remember, back in season 1?
Yeah, absolutely.
Though in that situation, Cressida feigned swooning to attract attention, and here Pen's body basically shuts down because she's under too much attention and too much pressure. Anyway, there's actually some very funny scene description from the end of the episode as well that says, the Bridgertons sure know how to throw a party. The script also mentions that Elle is floored by this turn of events.
Technically, I think it's Pen who is floored by the end of this episode. And I love the shot of her on the floor. I think it's probably a coincidence, but it makes her look like another painting.
Does give Renaissance.
Yeah, there's one in particular called Psyche Conveyed by Zephyrs to the Valley of Pleasure by John Woods, and it looks so similar.
It does look like it, to be honest.
So another Psyche illusion, if you will. I don't think it was particularly meant to be that, but it looks like it. And it's a very dramatic ending as everyone rushes around Penelope. Colin sort of has her hand. It sort of breaks through Elle's anger as she worries for her friend.
Portia rushes over too. And Lord Hawley, our favourite.
Oh my god, he has the best reaction. He jumps into it. He is distraught. He is there. My hero of the episode.
Scene stealer. Yeah.
And we end up on a close-up of Pen's unconscious face as those who love her rush around her, Lord Hawley most definitely included. And that is how we leave her and leave the episode. Our listener Gabby had a question about this. I wonder what happened after Pen fainted. I would love to think Chaos Colin lifted her up and carried her to another room. As someone who loves a hurt comfort trope, I'm annoyed that we didn't see the other side of this.
Yeah.
He just sees the next morning when she's fine. I would have loved to have seen like her Like all the panic, him picking her up.
You know what I would have loved to have seen? He heroically and lovingly carries her out and like helps her into a carriage and like watches as it literally just goes across the square to her house and the footmen carry her inside. Or before he can speak to her, she's basically like taken out before they can even have a moment to address the situation.
Yeah, Portia's like, oh my God, I gotta get her home.
Elle's like, oh my God, I nearly killed her.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about it in 306, but like in my head, that's why she calms down with it.
Yeah, the turning point. She's like, yeah, you could just keep quiet, Ben. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, do you know when like you try tough love with someone because you think that's going to be good for them, and then you end up making it worse, and you're like, okay, that will kill you. So let's rethink the way we're doing this.
Reevaluate.
And your girl's pregnant.
Oh my God, that too.
There's a lot happening for poor Pen. And then as a last question, our listener Tiff said, I have to talk about this. I was and still am flawed, much like Pen. Oh, also, Pen does end up on the floor at some point in the season. So there we go. Justice for the engagement scene in the carriage, I guess. But Tiff says, I was and still am floored by directing and editing in the Charades game and the engagement evening that ratcheted up the tension so much.
Charades.
The entire episode is going to be us saying it wrong. Ratcheted up the tension so much that the entire audience gasped at every reveal in the last 10 minutes. Between John trying to make good with the Bridgertons, Cantonese announcement of their baby, Pen having a breakdown attempting to reveal to Colin her secret, Colin wishing, praying, hoping that Pen doesn't want to take back the engagement, Eloise pushing in to try to tell Colin about Lady Whistledown herself, Cressida's final announcement. I swear there was enough panting to warrant a marathon, and that's what the end of the episode was. And all I want to know is, what were your reactions to this?
Woo.
I think it was just sensory overload, is what I would say.
Yeah, definitely the mood really built up to it.
We saw it together, Veg. What did we think? A lot had happened in that episode that was a lot to process mentally.
Yeah, I think I was sad that it was going to be over, so I probably wasn't paying as much attention.
I know that we got out and said to the others it was like one of the best episodes and like filmed in one of the best ways.
Yeah.
It's like a unique tone to the story, and I think they did a really great way of chaotically ratcheting up that tempo and that pressure to collapse.
Well, I watched for the first time with Ovs, and I think I was so engrossed that I didn't really comment all that much, but she just said, chaos, chaos, chaos. So
There are your thoughts, Tiff. Classic Bridgerton scene.
Oh, and then she followed that by saying, oh, I love someone collapsing.
Oh, I do. Anything like that, I'm in for. And that brings us finally to the end of 305.
Woo!
Thank the Lord.
We did it.
Final thoughts, Lecky, what's your whistle up and whistle down for the episode?
The victory of the moment where Colin reveals that he's always felt something for Penelope, a vindication at long last.
Cute!
It's been a long 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
What's your whistle down?
Cressida being informed that she has to pop out 4 or 5 babies for Lord Greer.
Bit grim, bit grim.
Yeah.
So you know what, Cress? I'm supporting you at this point. She's not doing this whistle down announcement to like get back at Pen. It's like pure self-preservation. And she has no idea that it's Pen, so...
Yeah, at that point she has no idea that it's Pen.
Yeah.
She's doing it purely for herself. I think Pen's like, oh my god, she's doing this to spite me, but...
Yeah, and that's the thing. Pen gets so hyper-focused on it being Cress that are taking credit.
Yeah.
Succubus of the first water.
Had Eloise just got them in a room together and like told Pen the problem, Pen could have just written a way out of the Cress.
They could have worked together. Hey, what was it that Tilly said in that cut line? Like, women must support one another?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well. Oh, well.
Oh, well. I mean, maybe just a little bit too much water under that bridge, but we'll get there next episode.
Do we do bow ratings?
Oh my god, yeah, of course we do. Bow ratings.
It's been a while.
Oh, right.
What are you rating it?
Ratings out of 12 bows. Lower is better.
I'm going to give this a 3
3
out of 12.
A 3. Vegetable? Legume?
2 for Colin's redemption.
A 2. My darling bean?
Because this particular episode is bringing up so many emotions for me.
Traumatizing memories.
Yeah, go for it.
Bear in mind, we're still covering up the mirror scene and everything like that from the beginning.
I do understand that, but on this sole recording alone, I'm giving it a 7 because I cannot.
Wow.
She's struggling.
I'm sorry. I'm so deeply, I almost just cried in the episode. I can't.
Oh, Angel.
Look at the suffering she's done for you listeners.
It's okay.
I did message Lecky today and said, I think doing the rewatch has made me like episode 5 less. Because it was like in the contention for being one of my absolute favourites.
Mm-hmm.
And I still love it a lot. So I think that might have been a bit dramatic of me.
I think the directing is really well done this episode.
It is. Yeah, he did a great job.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I feel like the directing makes this a masterpiece of an episode.
Sure.
Yeah, the directing gets 2 bows.
Mm-hmm.
But when you go in and you're like evaluating the story and also seeing how this sets up kind of some of the other problems I have in part 2, that kind of negatively impacts my overall opinion of episode 5. But there are some really great little Polin moments within it.
And there are a couple of moments that I wish had been included. I'm going to give it a 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great episode. And our favourite of part 2. So I don't know how that bodes with the rest of the rewatch.
All downhill from here, guys.
Here's something I will just finally say, just as like, you know, a reminder for everyone. I know that secrets are scary, and I know if you're holding something big, it's like, what if my partner hates me? Whatever. Just be open and honest. And if things don't work out between you and your partner, you will find somebody who understands where you're coming from. And I know it's scary. Just like, please be honest. Don't hide things. If you have feelings for someone else, but you're engaged to another person, perhaps end that engagement. I don't know.
Vague idea of scenario that could happen.
Yeah, just be honest. We all tell white lies, but big things like this always need to be told.
And like living with a lie can do so much damage to you.
And psychological damage to other people.
And this is why I think in part 2, they have so many happy moments that it's hard to enjoy because you know Pen isn't fully in any of them.
Right.
Because she's so distracted and you know it's just this thing hanging over. So
the path of destruction is not worth keeping something that big. It's something that reverberates for your entire life.
And on that happy note, thank you for joining us.
It's don't lie.
Oh my God. So thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time for, episode 6, Romancing Mr. Bridgerton. Until then, Lecky, where can everyone find us?
You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at WhatABarbPod.
And you can find us on YouTube and all your favourite podcast platforms. On YouTube, we post alongside little context pictures and other beautiful collages, and you'll love it.
And if you'd like to support the pod, you can come find us over at patreon.com/whatabarpod. We'll have discussion posts after the episode. You'll see our first reactions from our chats. We have games, bits and pieces, words of wisdom from Beans, and stuff like that. So come on over. But Beans, do us the honour and sing us out.
Tick tock on the clock, but the party don't stop, you know. Oh. Bo-da-da-da. Bo-da-da-da. Bo-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Bo-da-dee-doo-doo-dee-doo-dee-doo. Brr, brr, brr. Das violin. Do 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 do. Do 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 do.
A Polin podcast.